Hey, everybody on YouTube, what is going on? We got a special night for you as we kick off another edition of Science Bob and Friends. And I tell you, we have one hell of a big name guest for you tonight, Dave Beaty. This is the man who created the documentary about the USS Nimitz, and we are going to bring him in momentarily along with Science Bob. It is a power show du jour on Spaced Out Radio. And before we bring these fine gentlemen in, let's give a quick roundup for everybody who is in our chat room so far. We have Mike L. in the gold medal position. Race fan takes home silver. And we got Paul Tavares taking home the bronze. Jan Yannick, good to have you here. Trucker Andrew and Van Gogh, thank you for joining us. Dirty Filth, nice to have you kick off the super chat tonight. Thank you. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Hello, gorgeous Cosmic Fleur. How are you tonight? Thank you for sticking with us. The lovely and talented Jenny Metz and Parkway are here. Thank you for coming on in. Joshua, nice to see you. Mama Susan, thanks for coming on in. Really appreciate you. Solar Warden, Scott Brown, good to have you guys here. J1 looking very, very professional and astute tonight. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Sassy Sandra, good to see you. Typical Watch, thank you for coming on in. We really do appreciate your support. Luftaug, how you doing, my friend? Good to have you here. The gorgeous and talented Wagon Breath is here. She'll be signing autographs after the show. Please line up to the right of the studio. We really do appreciate it. Gorgeous Jules, welcome back. Jules will be signing autographs. Line up to the right of the studio if you don't mind. And there's Chill Farm from Brisbane, Australia. Major Lee from the UK. Good morning and good afternoon to both of you. Ed Clater, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. The lovely and talented Jessica Lee is back. Welcome. Fabster, what's going on, man? Thank you for coming on in. Hey, Boz Monster and SJ, welcome to the show. Stu Gerson, right there, buddy. Thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And let's continue on here as we have. I got jumped here in the chat room. Okay, there we go. I hate it when the chat room jumps on you. All right, Northern UFOs, welcome back. Roz Lambda, welcome to the show. How are you? And Chris Reap, thanks for coming on in. Alaska's greatest athlete, the gorgeous and talented Emily Bigelow is here. Jeremy Jones and 416 Bitcoin. How are you? Uncle Dale and his Power Stash are here. Remember, if you're in Austin, Texas, and you rub Uncle Dale's Power Stash, your chances of winning the Powerball go up 450% minimum. Yes, just rub that Power Stash. All right, the gorgeous Heather Vegas McIntyre is here. Hello, my beautiful friend. How you doing? Good to have you here early. Sean, what's happening? Thank you for coming on in. Ozzy, oi, oi to you. Lovely Helena is here along with John Ballerman. They're both going to wave at you, so make sure you wave back. Rachmaninoff and Looney, welcome to the show. One of the best cooks in ufology is here, the gorgeous Nicole Sakic. Yes, give us a wave with one of your frying pans there, Nicole. We would really appreciate it. Thank you. Randy Spurl and Joe Smith. Brett Lewis is here. Welcome to the show, Brett. We can officially start now that you're here. Thank you for joining us. The lovely Wrench Kira has shown up. Thank you, Kira. Slim Tinskin, welcome to the show. And there's my Twitter friend, the gorgeous Jenster, who literally biked 900 miles just so she could listen to this show. 900 miles. Richard Elmore, welcome. Tammy Jackson, looking lovely tonight. Thank you. The gorgeous and talented Princess Denali is back. Welcome. Ibarata and Jiggy Norris, how are you guys? Welcome. Double Tim, thank you for coming on in. And Sarah Colantonio, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. So there you are. Hi. Science Bob is here, everyone, in the chat room. Science Bob, so make sure you say hello to him. He'll be on the show as well because it is Science Bob and Friends. John Hires, George Hernandez, welcome to the show. Mr. Catfish, good to see you. Thank you for joining us once again. Ibarata in Singapore. We always love it when you're here. Mark Eddy, thanks for joining us. And I'm just seeing if I'm missing anybody else here because, you know, I love to say hello to everyone. I think we're caught up. I think we are officially caught up. All right. Remember, a good way to support this show is by giving us a thumbs up, a thumbs down, a thumbs sideways. Hit that subscribe button, ring that bell so you know when we're going to be live, because we are live here on our YouTube channel 7 days a week. Yeah, we have nothing better to do here but to go on the show, and that's what we do. All right. Give me 2 seconds here as we load everything up. And we are 30 seconds away from showtime here. Tiniest Squish, nice to have you back. Thank you for joining us. And yeah. Greg Moyes, good to see you. 20 seconds away, everyone. We're going to have a great show tonight. Science Bob is here. David C. Beaty is here. And I'll tell you, these are 2 fine-looking gentlemen. They are fine-looking gentlemen. And I have enough facial hair for all 3 of us tonight. So here we go. Sit back, relax. Let's get into the woo. Here we go. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Spaced Out Radio scientist Bob McGwier is here for another edition of Science Bob and Friends. Dr. McGwier is here to discuss the scientific side of the supernatural, paranormal, and ufological. Now, each month, Science Bob will bring on a guest with a scientific or research background to talk about the practical and scientific side to high strangeness that surrounds us. Now, tonight, we are joined by special guest David C. Beaty. David is an Emmy Award-winning producer and cinematographer, and he is also a UFO researcher, journalist, and filmmaker. He's become a name of sorts in the UFO field over the last few years after short documentaries on the 2004 Nimitz encounters, as well as his knowledge about the 2015 and 2019 encounters with the U.S. Navy and these anomalous objects. Let's bring in the gentleman, Science Bob. It is always a pleasure to have you here, my friend, for another edition of this show, and we really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, happy to be here, Dave, and hope the audience is ready for a great show. We're very, very honored to have Dave Beaty with us tonight.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to talk about this, and I'm pleased that you invited me here tonight.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here, my friend, as well. Now with Bob here, we do things a little bit differently because Bob is the man, the myth, and the legend around here. But since he shaved his beard, we don't know if he lost his power over that, if he went all Samson. So I'm a little worried about that. But for you, Dave, as I'll kick it off, then I'll turn it over to Bob. For you, you have made a name for yourself ever since these United States Navy encounters, but you've been into UFOs a lot longer than this incident. Tell us about what has attracted you to this field.
Well, I think like many of us that enjoy this topic, it's been since we were kids, and maybe that's because there were books on the bookshelf at home that, had mysteries, perhaps talking about UFOs in a scientific manner. And I also got involved in that. So I was reading a lot about it as a teenager, and throughout my whole adult life, I always had an interest. When I, got out of my undergrad and I came down to Florida, I joined the MUFON, and I was a field investigator for a while. And, I really enjoyed that because that was applying sort of scientific investigative technique to the mysteries and the sightings people were having. So I have kind of always had an interest in it.
Bob.
That's terrific. Okay, so Dave, tell us a little bit about your background in video production, especially the kind of tools you use, or just whatever you want to tell us about your process for going through and making like the world famous Nimitz video. Tell us about those processes.
Sure. I mean, my career has been in television. That's where I started in broadcast television. And I followed that path for about a decade, mostly in small and medium market television. I transitioned into video production in the mid-90s, and I was involved in doing documentaries for History Channel and Travel Channel, several series that our company was working on, PBS, and I continue to do that to this day. That's my main gig, so to speak. The UFO stuff I kind of did on a lark, really. I was like, hey, I want to recreate the 2004 Nimitz video based on what the pilots were reporting. It sounded so interesting, and I do have some 3D graphics chops, so I started putting that together, and lo and behold, a year goes by, and all of a sudden I have this little film, and I got lucky enough to spend some time with some of the guys that had come forward and got them on camera, all really almost in the same week. And I did another version where I had 4 of the Navy witnesses that were there. And really, this all happened just kind of spontaneously. I never had any budget. I didn't have a sponsor above it. It was just me kind of wanting to do it, maybe putting in the effort, and then doors sort of open. And, I don't know exactly, I think it was November 2018 or something. That's when I first kind of put it on YouTube. And we're up somewhere around 6 million views just organically. I don't advertise it. It just, people somehow find it in the mysterious YouTube algorithm. So that's kind of the story.
So as the scientist that I am, I often take whatever evidence I can get, do observational science before I ever come to any kind of conclusions or hypothesis or theory. So I really looked at that video a lot, and I would go back over all the witness statements and other things because I was trying to find where you had made a mistake. And I got to tell you, you spent a lot of time getting that right. So tell us the process that you went through to make sure the video and the action in it, as well as the 3D visualizations, right, how you married them to the actual narrative.
So that was my goal and intention from the very beginning. I wanted to make it as analytical as possible without completely losing the audience, making it kind of not entertaining. So there's some people complain that, the dramatic music and all that ruins it. Other people like that. So it's kind of putting those two elements together to tell the story. But what I did is I did research every, news clipping or television interview that I could find where details were being presented about the actual event itself, moment by moment, from the various participants. And I would, make a document that described that, like where were they, how did they see it, where were the jets, in relationship to one another. And then I went farther, took it another step as far as how were they communicating with the ships and how were they communicating with each other. Some of the Navy guys helped me there because I could, try to understand the brevity radio communication. But, if you just go that route, people are going to jump on it and say that's not how they talk. But I did get some assistance there. It's not perfect radio brevity, but I wanted to make the audience understand it as well. So I did include that, some of the calls between, Fast Eagle and Princeton and, how they're handing off control from the E-2 Hawkeye and when they're seeing the object and reporting it, and the BRA calls, bearing range, altitude. So I threw all that in there to kind of make it as realistic as possible, but keep that entertainment and story line going as well. So it's kind of compelling.
So the thing I liked most about the video is and maybe you can comment on this, of whether you just did a good job of faking me out, or whether you actually had some kind of engine, because the physics of flight seemed to be pretty accurate. I won't say perfect, but it was better than just somebody grabbing a piece off of some video stream. It looked like you had some kind of physics input to it. Tell me how that worked.
Mm-hmm. So within the software that I was using, there is dynamics that you can use to create real forces and so on. In the simulation that I did, I was using measured distances and speeds and angles. So, for instance, I knew the flight characteristics of an F/A-18F Super Hornet, and I would put that in motion in the correct speed. So I do have that in the arena. And then based on Commander Fravor's description of his engagement, say, with the ocean disturbance at 20,000 feet below, when I show that look is sort of what it looks like. At that altitude, a 200, 300 feet long disturbance looks very small from the perspective of a pilot looking down on the ocean. So those things were pretty accurate. I think people you notice that it wouldn't be big, it would be small, almost hard to see from that altitude. And then the same thing when he's engaging it, I did put the physics of the turning circle where they're like maybe a mile apart or so going around a circle seen from different angles. So that actually is true, and I'm glad that you noticed that.
Oh yeah, it was one of the first things I looked for, was to see how realistic the physics of the motion was. And I had a visual picture of Fravor and his wing person going around the circle while the wing person stayed up high, and Fravor ran around the circle while the Tic Tac tried to be on the opposite side of the circle. And then when he cut over, things got a little wonky. So tell me about who are you allowed to say you talked to in the crews of the Princeton and the Nimitz about the encounter? Who are you allowed to talk to, and who can you tell us about?
Well, it's actually exceedingly difficult to talk to any of these guys unless they approach you. And after the first video I posted, which didn't include really anybody, other than Commander Fravor's story, it was a little 15-minute piece.
Yes.
And so from that, at the end, I said, if you or anyone has seen these types of encounters from military ships or planes, please send me an email. And so I got a bunch of emails, and several of the people were like, "Hey, Dave, I was there on the ship. I saw this stuff happening." So I began talking to, for instance, Kevin Day and Gary Voorhees. I mean, they're in the movie now, but back then when I first started, they weren't in the movie. That came because of the movie. So since that day, I mean, there has to be a couple dozen people from the ships, and they keep coming. I mean, just the other day I had a guy contact me that was on the Nimitz, and, each one sort of offers a different little snippet. But even to this day, when I look back at it and all the people that keep coming forward, the story remains consistent, and the different pieces all seem to align. And there hasn't been anything that's sort of been kind of an outlier that throws anything into question. It really does seem like that 30-minute video sort of explained it. Now, I don't know who the guys that came onto the ship were, and I never really figured that one out, but I'm sure that'll eventually come out, whoever those people were that came and took all the radar data and so on.
Yeah, that's pretty aggravating. I was going to say, I watched your first video almost immediately after it came out, and I did watch it evolve, and it was my view, though I had no statements to that effect, that people were coming to you, or you had found them and they were giving you more information. Dave, your turn.
How did you gain the trust of these gentlemen from the Nimitz? Because the one thing that I've noticed in my research up here in Canada, being an outsider to the military, is they don't want to answer questions. You're an outsider. You're somebody whom wasn't there. You haven't gone to war with them, even though we haven't really gone to war in a long time, and using that as a figure of speech. okay, but you haven't been part of their team. So for you being a stranger and an outsider who has a very public camera, how did you gain that trust that you weren't going to screw them over, or you weren't going to tell a falsehood of what happened?
Well, I mean, I guess that, as a person, I approach it as I would anybody that I don't know that I'm meeting for the first time. And I think that it's just basically talking to them on email and trying to understand how comfortable they are. Some people don't want to give their name, for instance, and they'll send an email, but they don't want to reveal that, or, and that's fine. If they don't want to talk to me, and I explain to them that it's all really up to them. I'm not going to tell anybody their name or who they, what position or rank they had, unless they want me to. And I think that over time that's helped. But each new person that doesn't know that about me probably comes forward and, they don't know who this guy is, and they're a little hesitant at first. And, some people, I find don't want to go past that, send an email back and forth, even though I encourage them, hey, let's, pick up the phone and have a conversation, because it's going to work a lot better if we can talk to each other, one to one, and exchange information at the speed of light versus typing it, So sometimes that happens, and other times the guys, they just don't ever go past that stage. And I'm really happy when somebody is like Gary and Jason Turner and PJ, and they're willing to sort of step into the limelight and actually come out of the shadows, and Carson Camerzell, and say, hey, I'll tell you the story, and I'm not too worried about it. I mean, if someone tells me don't talk about it, I won't anymore. But at this point, it seems like everyone else is telling the story, so it must not be like we're not supposed to. So I think that's what happened with the Nimitz case.
So for you, as you started hearing this story, and I'll focus on Kevin Day here for a second, because he was very emotional when I had a one-on-one with him in San Francisco. I mean, this almost gave him PTSD. I mean, lifelong Navy guy, proud to serve his country, proud to protect it from anything. And here he is working a radar system and the lead of a radar system, and he can't understand what he's seeing because it's not supposed to be real. I mean, you're dealing with real emotion and real human beings, and when it's on camera, we tend to forget that.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing you have to realize is that a lot of these service members are truly American heroes, and that they've probably been involved in these protracted wars in the Gulf region that the United States has been involved in. Kevin has a long career in the Navy that goes back, into the Persian Gulf, and he saw things and was part of things that are very, very troubling, and would be for anybody. It's very private to him, and I think that a lot of these men that were involved, and women, in these things do have PTSD. Some diagnosed, others not, and it's something that it's I mean, I don't know how much of that part of his wartime experience affects his life, but I think that for anybody that has seen the things that they have seen, it is going to be part of any experience they have. But you're right. I mean, in Kevin, he told me from day one that when he saw these objects through the big eye binoculars on the bridge wing of the Princeton, he looked through them. At that very moment, he said that he felt like there was a lightning strike almost, that something changed in him, and it changed his life from that moment forward. I mean, he really believes that. So,
Bob?
Yep. So, yeah, so I've been out with the 5th Fleet. I've been on the USS Blue Ridge with the 7th Fleet, and the George Washington, which is the 7th Fleet, and on the USS Hampton, which is the nuclear submarine. And I can tell you, these are real pros. They really are. They are dedicated. They're away from family and regular life for long periods of time. And I can just see Kevin Day realizing that the Nimitz is preparing to go into a dangerous situation, and they're training. And every day, Kevin Day and all the people around him are seeing these vehicles at 20 to 80,000 feet. They drop down, they go back up, and they have no clue what they are. And they're entering their airspace. And it's a violation of the controlled airspace around the carrier group. And the carrier group commander has got to really be chewing on these people. What is this? What is this spot? I can see the stress level having been in it. And I was in Persian Gulf One when Bush was there. I'm just telling you, the rapid pace of things happening builds to a crescendo, and all of a sudden they see this strange thing that they have no idea what it is, where it could come from, and real fear sets in. So from Kevin's story, it's prolonged, this stress level, because he's seeing this stuff day after day after day. And you can just imagine that it's somewhat traumatic. He's got a responsibility. He wants it done. And I completely understand how it can affect you, especially if you're thinking it's some kind of foreign adversary that's spying on you, and all of a sudden it's all weird. So how many of these folks, I don't want their names, but how many of them have had that kind of interchange with you about the stress they were under?
Well, you know, I mean, Kevin explained to me that his job, and I think many of these service members that are involved in Combat Information Center on these ships, or the, you know, on carrier as well, their job is to identify aircraft, you know, in their airspace. So that's their number one job. And Kevin has said over that time that they utterly failed in that role, and that he was so frustrated because what he calls the incurious nature of his commanding officers, that people didn't seem to even really care. He was pointing this stuff out. And, you know, one of the other things I'll mention that people don't know about Kevin, he told me that one of his jobs, by the way, after 9/11 was kind of formulating the plans that if, for instance, a civilian comm air plane was taken over by terrorists, how the Navy would respond and air interdict that. That was Kevin that did that. I mean, if you can imagine the pressure that he was under in those situations after 9/11. Luckily, that never happened, but you know, that's his job, to ID unknown aircraft in the sky around the carrier strike group. So yeah, and you know, other guys that were there, you know, I think it's, you know, I don't know if they had that same level as Kevin, but I mean, they were talking about this stuff going on for a week. Every night and every day they were like, you know, seeing these tracks, and the whole ship and scuttlebutt was on the Princeton. They were all talking about it. And then not only that, you know, some of these guys were seeing these objects, you know, through the binoculars, and, you know, even at night from the deck of the vessel with their own eyes. So, you know,
it's pretty amazing how. So having been on the George Washington, which is thousands of men and women, and then in a carrier group, there's, you know, thousands more on the other ships, and everyone knows. The people don't understand. They have digital comms back and forth. They can chat. It's, you know, goes through encrypted channels, but this stuff spreads like wildfire. I'll give one example. So there was a carrier group somewhere in the world, and they have access to extremely slow, really horrible internet. And one sailor did something they shouldn't, and they spread a virus throughout the group in a matter of days. That tells you how much interconnectedness there is, and it just happens. Now, there's been a lot of things done since that incident to prevent something like that from ever happening again, but it speaks to the interconnectedness. Dave, take us out of here.
Gentlemen, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we are through the first half hour of Spaced Out Radio, and I'll tell you what a power show this is. We have David C. Beaty for another 1 hour on this show, and we're going to break down the Nimitz encounter. We're going to break down what happened in 2015, what happened in 2019. We may even have a 3D rendering of the 2019 incident, maybe, for our YouTube fans, our Twitch fans. I don't know. It may be there. Science Bob and Friends continues on Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, gentlemen, we're clear.
Very cool.
Now, just as a reminder, YouTube can hear us, so we are still live on YouTube.
We can't curse much?
Oh, you can curse all you want now, just not on the radio side of everything. Right?
Yeah, this show has a total audience, radio, etc., in the tens of thousands, Dave. This is
nice.
This is a good place to do this. And it'll have hundreds of people watch tonight, but through the next 3 weeks, as word of mouth happens, this show, especially with your premiering a thing or two, will really get a lot of views.
I hope somebody knows somebody on all those ships out there in 2019 that can, I would really love to get someone that has a relative or something like that to ask them, to come and speak out. Because even though it's a kind of a small event, each ship has 300, 400, 500 people on them, and there's like 10 ships plus a carrier strike group. There's got to be thousands of people that were aware of it,
You know it.
But I think they might be, somebody said they might be under NDA. They may have been told not to talk about it specifically.
I have a hypothesis about both the Nimitz, the Teddy Roosevelt, and the Kid, and we're going to discuss it.
And I mentioned I'm Canadian and we barely have a Navy. I had one guy with my daytime job, one of my clients, him and his wife both spent 22 years in the Canadian Navy. And I've been trying so hard to get him on record for what he saw out in the middle of the Pacific and the Atlantic, because he served on both coasts. And I'll tell you, he won't do it. He will not do it. He's like, I'm not risking my wife's and my pensions. And I'm like, dude, you don't have to. They can't take it away from you. He's like, no, because I have a source in Ottawa who says, no, they can't take your pension for talking about this stuff. And yeah, but he won't.
I have a guy from the Canadian Navy that contacted me. Really awesome guy that gave me all kinds of information. He sent me this document that shows how the Navy had these drones in the 80s that were shaped like a peanut up on its end with rotors on the top, and the things they were like gas powered and they could fly for hours.
Yeah, this
is like 83.
Yep.
Yeah. What this guy told me was that the Canadian Navy, he goes, especially when they were on the West Coast, they were on high alert for Russian patrol for their airplanes. He's like, Dave, you wouldn't believe how many cool toys the Russians have. He goes, but there were times when we were out there, we knew it wasn't the Russians. And that's all he would tell me. And I'm like, come on, give me more, give me my fix, man. Let's do this. And he's like, no, I just want to give a big shout out to Cousin McGarry is here. Cousin Gary in Edmonton has showed up. That's literally my cousin. And Gary has a powerful Ukrainian mustache that we all want to point out. So if you see a Ukrainian mustache walking down the roads of Edmonton, that's Cousin Gary. So make sure you say hi to him. And sorry about that, gentlemen.
And it's good to see Gary C. is here. I gave a talk last night to the Winnipeg Experiencers Group, and it was fun.
Hey, Bob, what microphone are you using? Because you're coming in a little tinny.
Then let me move a little bit closer.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be cool.
Hey, I got my, I was busted on radio guys last week. So I said, I brought my microphone here.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
an RCA.
That is gorgeous.
Oh, that's so great. I love
that
those
is gorgeous.
RCA mics.
I'm actually kind of jealous about that.
Mine is out in my ham radio shack.
I got a few old microphones around here somewhere. Yeah. There was one microphone we used to use in radio. You could beat the tar out of that thing. Just beat the tar out of that thing. Drive over it with a car. It would it wouldn't be
oh yeah, we used to have
wouldn't even break.
I think it was an RE50 that, it was all rusty, beat up, and if you had to pound a nail or something, you could use that thing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Still sounded fine,
Oh yeah, I think I got one over here. Hold on. Let me check. Oh, better take those off. We got time.
Yeah, you got 2 minutes.
Oh, I can't find it here. It's here somewhere. I have my old mic flashes here somewhere too. They're up on my shelf. All right, gentlemen, we have about 20 seconds left before we're going to go back here to the show. I want to say a big thank you to Dirty Filth, Mandingo, Wagon Breath, Catfish, Gorgeous Jules, Bobby, to Dave, and to Science Bob for the amazing super chats. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Science Bob and Friends continues with Dr. Bob McGwier and our special guest tonight from the USS Nimitz documentary, David C. Beaty. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Great to be here, Dave.
Welcome back.
All right, Science Bob, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, great. So, Dave, were you aware that your video was shown in some really interesting places in Washington, D.C.?
I'm probably still am not, but I did know that Chris Mellon did show it to somebody else because they're like, hey, Chris Mellon sent me a link to your video. So I did know that there were some people in pretty high places that were interested in it. And I had a guy recently that was on an aircraft carrier with a public affairs officer, and they asked the public affairs officer if, hey, have you seen that video, the Nimitz encounters with the Tic Tac? And she said, oh yeah, that's real. That's real. And it just like totally deadpan, it was like, part of their like a training material or something.
So everyone knows that Chris Mellon was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for a while. But before that, he was a staffer for the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, and he worked for Mark Warner and Senator Burr from North Carolina and their predecessors. So he had lots of contacts. And I assure you, all those people looked at that video. And so because of the exact same things we've been talking about, why it is a visualization aid to accompany the narrative so people can walk away with a picture in their mind of what happened rather than just listening to eyewitness testimony. And then he classified details that may or may not be informative to people who aren't scientists and engineers, by all that high-tech data that none of us will ever see out here, but they get to see in there. So I'm sure Chris showed it to his old buddies on these intelligence committees. So that's a really great thing. Dave, take a question.
How did you believe these stories? How did you know that you were getting the truth out of these fine gentlemen who were wanting to come out publicly about this? Because anytime something that comes out from the military, there's always a little bit of skepticism because as the public, we've had the wool pulled over our eyes for so long, Dave.
Well, I mean, there are some inconsistencies, and, I noted them along the ways that for instance, the naval aviators, the officers that are part of this, and they're like the biggest part of it, basically, because they were the eyewitnesses to this event. There's always like a divergence between an enlisted person and an officer, and I guess sometimes there's a difference in opinion and a difference in how they see things. That's the same thing that happened here, where I believe to this day, because I really haven't been able to talk to Commander Fravor. or any of the pilots, in this case. In the Nimitz case, I tried to talk to the pilots and I reached out to them. Some didn't want to talk to me. Others talked to me for a second, like Commander or Lieutenant Commander Jim Slate talked to me for, a little bit on LinkedIn, and then just said, hey, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And they didn't give a reason. So some of those guys didn't really agree with what the surface guys were saying. For instance, they didn't say that there were multiple objects, as Kevin Day said. So there's a inconsistency there. They said there was only one object ever, one Tic Tac. And whether it was there the week before, it was only one. Whereas Kevin states that he saw groups of these objects on the Spy 1 radar, groups of 5 to 10, so over the course of a week, 100 or something objects, whether they were the same ones, we don't know. So how do you believe that? I don't know. I don't have a corroborating witness that was standing next to Kevin that saw the exact same thing. And I do try to find that out. If I get anybody that might have remembered seeing the radar, they were in combat information that week. Did you see more than one track, or was it just one? So it's a good question. There's certain aspects to this case where, Commander Fravor is adamant that nobody came aboard and took any data. No one, the men in black, he says, they didn't come. They didn't take anything. But I have numerous people that experienced that in different places independently. So do I believe them, or do I believe Commander Fravor? Do I think, well, maybe no one was interested in Commander Fravor because he was the pilot of the jet and, he didn't have some of the sophisticated radar data that the other guys had. So, yeah, there's inconsistencies. And, you asked me, do I believe them? I mean, I believe the guys if, it's kind of a sense you might have that you talk to somebody over time and they tell you the story. You have to kind of take it at face value unless you can, take their argument apart and somehow figure out that, no, that's not right. But for the most part, I believe him. Now, here's a good example of a part of the Nimitz case that did a 180. Gary Voorhees, in the very beginning, told me that a sonar man on the Princeton had a contact underwater, an unusual sonar contact. That's a guy on his ship told him that. Later, another sonarman, a more senior sonarman, told Gary that's not true. We didn't have any contacts. The guy that told you that was lying to you. And so, that's why if you look on YouTube, there's 2 videos. One, I actually updated it, and because I don't really care, I'll just make a new film. If something changed, I just said updated, no USO. The first video has the story of there being an underwater contact, like the Tic Tac went underwater. The second video doesn't have that because I don't know, someone lied to Gary or something, but unless I can find out that that's not correct, I'll put it back or erase that version or something. But yeah, it does. It's interesting. Is it like evidence that you have 2 people that say the same thing, or 3, or if one person says it? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, so if you go along those lines, so we're buying their stories, the public has jumped on this. The public is starting to really take off with the UFO stuff. It really was part of the catalyst of what we see now, where we're close to the end of the 180 days, where we may actually get something out of the United States government, out of the Pentagon. Is there vindication not only for you as a filmmaker on this topic, but for these gentlemen as well, because of what may come out?
I think there is, yeah. I mean, the fact that it's being taken seriously, we hope that is vindication to me in itself, because the history of the U.S. government's involvement in this topic has been sort of dismal over the last 75 years, since the end of Blue Book and Condon, that debacle. And going forward, here's another opportunity to at least take the topic seriously. And we do hope that we find out that, yeah, this stuff is real and we haven't been able to figure it out. I'm hoping that they say that there are these cases of observations over military installations, over ships, and incursions into Navy and Air Force, perhaps operations areas that in nuclear facilities that are unexplained, because that's what it seems like to everybody else. And over the last 3 years, I think that this has been over and over and over, and I don't see any answers. I don't see any explanations. So I would assume that that's what should be in the report. I mean, what do you think? I'm not sure.
So let me give you my input. I was really dubious right after the bill passed for the relief, and in it, the relief package, and in it was this: the DOD shall produce a report, unclassified report, and give it to the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and the Armed Services Committee, and there will be classified briefings, blah blah blah. But it didn't have the force of rule of law. It was a suggestion, and I was really dubious. So I was going, this is going nowhere, because you can't hear the Air Force talking about any of this stuff anywhere at all. It's the Navy doing all the talking because they're sick of their vessels and personnel being put in danger, and the Air Force is just being silent, just like they always have. And then the bombshell dropped. The probably the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence or the Senate Armed Services Committee or their counterparts in the House filed an Inspector General complaint, and that is a big deal. The Inspector General is an independent entity in every department and agency in the government, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff cannot tell this Inspector General that he cannot go investigate. The only way you can stop them is have the President of the United States fire them. So I think that's finally a big deal, and we're likely to get something. Will it be satisfying? I think we'll just have to wait and see. Dave, you have anything else on the NEMIS? I want to change tack a little bit.
Yeah, I got one more question for you. Dave, how did you stay out of trouble with reporting this story? Okay, I mean, granted, it's open. These gentlemen didn't have an NDA that they were, because I remember asking both Kevin and Gary about this, about their NDA potentially. But for you, did you get anybody coming up to you from the military or the Pentagon or government officials saying, why did you release this? Why did you do this? You shouldn't have done that.
Never. I never got anything like that. People suggested to me, hey, you sure you should be doing this, man? You know, like the men in black are going to knock on your door, dude. Jason Turner's like, hey, Dave, you're not thinking of killing yourself anytime soon, are you? Just in case. I'm like, no. I'm definitely not, man. So believe me, if that happens, I did not do that. But, behind the scenes, the guys would always tell me, look, Dave, there's a certain line we can't cross here, especially if they were involved in operating classified systems. They would like, there's something that we can't go beyond. And that was always the operating procedure for us. And I didn't, push them on anything they didn't want to talk about. So I don't think that there's anything in the movie, at least, that, kind of pushes past anything that would be classified. We mentioned CEC. It's a very sensitive classified system, but we don't go beyond to saying what is on the Navy's own website about it, that it's a cooperative engagement system that kind of fuses radar systems together into one type of display. That's all we really say. And the guys never really told me anything more. So I think we're in the clear, really.
So I can tell you handle that very well, because it's delicate. Because we have national technical means that people have no idea how it works, how well it works, what its capabilities are. And the warfighter has that stuff fused with what they can generate locally. And that is some of the most sensitive stuff in the entire military. And it's good you didn't touch it, so that, it wouldn't cause any trouble. So let me segue a little bit. Off the East Coast, off of Virginia, there was the Teddy Roosevelt incident, where Lieutenant Graves and his wingman saw a cubical thing inside the spherical energy shell. Have you had any involvement whatsoever or thought about doing 3D renderings for that? What is your involvement in that, if any?
Well, a group of us, now this goes back to, I forget, when Luis Elizondo first kind of hinted that the gimbal video and the Go Fast video were filmed off the East Coast. That's kind of the first thing that we knew about. We didn't know much beyond that. At some point, somebody said, well, these were from 2015. When that first came out, I forget exactly what year and month when that statement came out, a bunch of us behind the scenes began researching the case, and we actually figured out which carrier it was and which month it was. And we came within 1 to 2 days of the actual event itself based on East Coast 2015. And there's a researcher named Keith Basterfield, a wonderful guy out of Australia. There's a French guy named Christophe Spitzer, and a few others that I was working with. And using the way we did it is we first figured out which carrier strike groups were operating off the East Coast in that year. And it's not many, right? We found out that the Roosevelt strike group was out there for like 3 or 4 months or whatever, like operating out of Norfolk and up and down the East Coast. The real key was looking at the wind speeds, and the reason why we did that is because within the audio recordings of the gimbal, one of the pilots talks about the winds, and we knew that they were operating around 20,000 feet. He says the winds are 240 out of the west, something like that. There was only 1 to 2 times during that period that the strike group was around that you would have had those winds. And based on weather balloon soundings that are part of like the public record, you can actually go out and look at historical weather balloon soundings, like on the East Coast in various places. We found that there was a specific time in January 2015. So we actually found the day when the New York Times finally released that it was exactly like January 21st or something, 2015, we were like, wow. And we kind of figured out where Roosevelt was. I had gotten the deck logs of the cruiser USS Normandy. And the cruiser usually sticks around by the carrier during flight operations because they act as what's called plane guard. And plane guard would be, in case a plane goes in the drink or whatever, that they're close by for search and rescue operations. So we figured that wherever that Normandy was, the Roosevelt would be close by. We didn't get the Roosevelt deck logs even to this day because nuclear powered vessels, the deck logs go to a different department in the Navy and they kind of get tied up in that kind of classification review. So I don't know, maybe in 10 years we'll get them or something, but we didn't know exactly. We still don't to this day know exactly the GPS coordinates of where Roosevelt was when those videos were filmed on that same day in January.
That's terrific. Yeah, that's a lot of great information. So it doesn't seem to be as well known that when they finally got through with all of their practice maneuvers, getting ready, and they went off, that they were followed to their actual destination by these entities, and that really caused a stir because they were involved in combat operations, and these things were watching them. So it's just really, I really want to hear a whole lot more, I hope, in the UAPTF report when it comes out about all the things that are going on with the Teddy Roosevelt back in 2015 when it went to a combat area, because that would have really stirred things up. And in my opinion, that happening is what has truly stirred up the Navy while they are determined to get into the bottom of this, because they cannot have an unknown entity involved in their airspace while they're doing combat operations, because something really bad can happen where there's actually no intention of it happening. That is a truly dangerous situation. When they're not armed and they're off the U.S. coast and they're doing trials, oh, okay, maybe you almost had a midair and we can complain about it, but it's different when the vessel is fully armed, they're running screening maneuvers, and maneuvers for planes taking on or landing on the carrier in case they need to rescue them. And they've got anti-missile cruisers, submarines around. It's a big deal when you have these unknown incursions. I mean, it's just, I believe very strongly that that is one of the major things that has brought this out. Just a big, big deal. Dave?
We've got about 3.5 minutes to go before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Science Bob and David C. Beaty are our guests. I want to start to transform here into the 2015 incident. A lot of people look at the Nimitz incident. They look at the 2019 incident because that one's really firing people up. For the people who may not know, Dave, what happened in 3 minutes, if you could explain it in that time, in 2015?
Yeah, so starting probably around 2014, I think it was, I'm trying to think of the VFA 11, I think was the Red Rippers. That was the squadron. They were operating out of Naval Air Station Oceana off Virginia Beach. And they began encountering these objects when they were doing training off of their land-based airfield. They would go out into the training ranges called Vacapes. That's the name of it. The whiskey, kind of controlled airspace out there where they fake dogfight and do training. And they were running into these objects. As Bob mentioned, one of the crewmen had this near midair collision where they saw like a sphere with a cube inside of it. It was like a translucent sphere with a cube, and it passed between two jets within like 100 feet. They didn't even like see it, from what I understand, before it like flew by, and they almost hit it. And that prompted them to go to their commanding officer and file a HAZREP. So that's kind of kicked it off. And during that time in 2013, 2014, they were seeing a lot of these mysterious kind of unidentified objects off the coast of Virginia. And then, later on, they fly out to the USS Roosevelt in 2015. They land there and they're going to do pre-deployment workups. They're flying off that carrier. And then all of a sudden, we have this other encounter and these videos get released. That's where those two videos came from. The gimbal video that it's rotating this object, and this go fast video, they were filmed on the same day. And the aviators say, this was not a known craft. This was not behaving in a way that is explainable to us. And you have to rely on these guys that they're telling us the truth, that this was not some secret Air Force, device being tested against them, that they would never do that in a kind of safety of air situation, because it's not. They say they don't do that. They would be briefed. They would know about it. And these objects were out there, and they didn't know about it. They couldn't identify them. The Navy has not, to this day, been able to explain it. So that's like in a nutshell what happened.
And another thing that went on is in the gimbal video, one of the most striking interchanges happens when they go, look at your scope. There's a whole fleet of them on the scope. So that's this situational awareness thing. So we saw the FLIR, the forward-looking infrared, the one thing that we saw rotate in 250 knot winds, but they had a ton of them that were just off the scope, and that is a classified piece of gear that we're never going to see all those blips unless they figure out how to render it in a way just for the narrative, but not see the actual data. That is a big deal, that they saw all those things, and that would be scaring the dickens out of the commander. Go ahead, Dave.
Gentlemen, we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour, and I'll tell you, we have a great show going on. We have for another 30 minutes on the show David C. Beaty. He's got to cut out a little bit early because he has an early shoot in the morning, but when we come back with him, we're going to hit the 2019 USS Navy incident in Catalina, California, around Catalina Island there. And we got a great video to show you if you're on our YouTube channel or Twitch. And it's an artist rendering of this in 3D. We're going to get into all of it because that's what we do here on Science Bob and Friends. We stay away from the woo and we get to the who, what, where, when, why, and always how. Here on Spaced Out Radio, Dr. Bob McGwier, David C. Beaty, Science Bob and Friends continues right after this. All right, gentlemen, we're clear. I'll be right back. You guys can talk to the audience.
Isn't it amazing how fast the time flies in these things?
It's so funny. There's a spider that's like literally coming down right in front of the camera. Like, you know, like the spider couldn't have. I'm gonna get a picture of this. It's so crazy, just so you can see. I'm actually like telling you the truth. Like, it's so funny.
Wow, it's right there, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like dropping down in front of the camera, like perfectly positioned. I'm like, what is that? Fucking spider. It wanted to be on the show, man.
It did. I don't blame him. What are you shooting tomorrow?
Oh, just for my day job, I have a film that we're doing at a local hospital for, I think, their IT department.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I'm going to send Dave the spider so he can show you.
Yes, we had an alien spider drop into the show.
It came down from the TV lights. I'm like in this is a live studio that basically I can't really pan the camera around, but it's used for CNN and Fox News and MSNBC when there's political pundits and commentators that are in our area. They'll come to our little studio here and we'll put in a background, you know, whatever the news set is. Mm-hmm. And then they can talk directly with New York or wherever the anchors are. And, you know, that happens all the time. We did a whole bunch during the RNC down here. Yeah, so that's what I'm just using this, taking over the studio here for the show. So
that's great. So you got a green screen and you just project on it whatever you need.
This is like an 85-inch LED display, like a high-end TV.
Okay, good.
And we can just feed in any kind of video back here.
Oh, that's good, because that's better than the raggedy edge, artificial intelligence done green screen projection.
Yeah, you don't get the edges.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can wear any color here, so.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, I mean, this is kind of a nice lighting and stuff, and it's not my stuff, so I'm just borrowing it.
Yeah, I mean, you can see my orange bulb shining off my dome.
Yeah.
Also my rack full of gear. I see Dave has a woo-woo pedal rather than a wah-wah pedal up in the upper right.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah, it says woo on it. Woo factor. Hi, Misdemeanor. Thanks for being here. I guess that's better than Misfelony.
Oh, tell Dave you say my name Beaty. I didn't want to correct him. Everyone says Beaty because that's how you spell it, you know, like BEA, yep. Like beat.
Yeah, I'll tell.
All right, gentlemen.
Dave, say his name is Beaty. It's not Beaty, it's Beaty.
All right, sorry, Beaty.
It's like Susan Go or
Goff.
Oh my goodness! Can you imagine how often her name is mispronounced? And I got to tell you, they have thrown her in the deep end in the SecDef's office. Man, it's been rough.
Oh, yeah, I've heard some bad stuff about that whole thing. Some bad personnel stuff and like sexual harassment and other types of bad. Yeah,
really bad. Hello, Nicole. Thanks for being here.
All right. We have about a minute and a half here. 1 minute.
Julie says you can't spell who, what, where, why, and how without woo.
True. Oh, hey, Clam. How are you? All right. We're having a good show here, guys.
Oh, yeah. Now for the pièce de résistance.
Yes. I'll let you lead into it, Science Bob.
Sure.
Bob, if you could type in the chat room, I had a couple people asking about your amateur radio number or whatever it is.
N4HY. I'll put it in there.
Mm-hmm. All right. While we're waiting, big thank you to Dirty Filth, to Mandingo, Wagon Breath, Catfish, Jules, Science Bob, Dave, and Bobby for the amazing super chats. Really do appreciate everything that you guys do to support this show on a nightly basis. I really do appreciate it. And we might not get to any questions until Science Bob and I say goodnight to David, but that's okay. We're doing our best here. And let's see. There you go. I'll put it up on the screen. We're going to go here in about 5 seconds. So sit tight and enjoy.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. Thank you so much for tuning us in. We do really appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Thank you to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? Obstriligate. Obstriligate is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Science Bob and Friends. Dr. Bob McGwier is here, along with filmmaker David Beaty, and we're glad to have both you guys here. Science Bob, take it away.
All right. So, Dave, you have, by anybody's definition or thought process, really stirred it up with this stuff that happened with the USS Kidd off past Catalina. So this part, I just want you to take away. Tell us how you got involved, what you did, etc., and then we will make people happy by showing them something special.
Sure. So as part of the Nimitz email chain that was going on with these guys contacting me, which they still do to this day, a guy from the USS Chaffee contacted me. He said that he was out there in 2004, and he actually was part of an intercept of one of these objects. And he said, this is not the Commander Fravor intercept. This is a completely different one. And I know for a fact that that ship was not even there until after Thanksgiving, probably in the beginning of December of 2004. And he said he was out there when they went back, which is true, out in that SoCal op area. And he said that they intercepted another Tic Tac. So again, there's that. He said, have you heard about the USS Kidd incident into 2019? I said, I had not. He said, one of my buddies from back then that I worked with on the ship is now working in a DOD position, a defense contractor or government, employee. And he was out there on that ship in 2019. He said they saw these objects. And I said, well, what do you mean they saw these objects? He said they saw these Tic Tac objects from the ship. So I filed a FOIA for that ship on July 2019. talked to the guy a little bit since then. Suddenly I get this FOIA, comes back probably thinking around May. He contacted me in April 2020. This came back maybe around May 2020. I start going through the deck log, and the first thing I start seeing is this term Snoopy team, away Snoopy team for UAV. And I'm like, wow. And I'm looking through, and there's like a whole bunch of these away Snoopy team, spotted UAVs, spotted, what's a Snoopy team? I found out really quickly that it's a photographic documentarian team that runs out to the superstructure of the ship, goes outside with, SLR type cameras, video cameras, and films whatever the bridge officers indicate they're looking at for, trying to identify or at least get evidence of whatever they're seeing. So that's what a Snoopy team is. And, they were seeing what appeared to be either red lights. A lot of times that's what we're being described, like spotted 2 red lights, red flares, drones, UAVs, over and over. So, I started posting some of this stuff just openly on Facebook and Twitter, asking if anyone heard about it. I would, post some deck log images of the, Snoopy thing. It showed a picture of what a Snoopy team looks like. Researcher Danny Silva of silvarecord.com, he did a blog post about it in June and wrote it up for me, what was being seen. Little happened, really. I mean, I was like still researching it. We were going after some of the other destroyers that were out there. The USS Kidd is a destroyer, by the way. And we were going after some of the other destroyers that were working with the Kidd in SoCal in July, and those started coming in. We were correlating it. And that's kind of how it all started until, the national media and just ufology and the people that are here kind of knew about it, and people that I interact with on Facebook and probably some of your associates, but really no one else knew about it up until just recently.
Great. And so what has been the reaction since those things have been confirmed by the Pentagon?
Well, I think it's pretty interesting that first, that there were like a dozen ships out there and they were all seeing these things that surprisingly enough, with that many assets out there, and we know the type of powerful radars and powerful, observational equipment they have, that they couldn't figure out what these things were, where they came from, and who owned them, for instance. And, just recently, the Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Gilday, was asked, in a press conference, this is the top dog, man, if he had heard about this, and he said that he was well aware of that incident, and no, the Navy has not determined, what these things were. And I mean, that coming from that level after, this is 2019 after all, they've had this much time to study the radar and study the video from the Snoopy teams, which there's probably hundreds of hours of photographs and videos and everything else. I always point out this thing. I always point to this device called the EOSS Mark 20, which is a high-powered electro-optical camera system that you can basically zoom in with a FLIR and spot anything with it. Like, they were looking at these objects with that device, pretty classified, but they couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, it's multispectral. It covers a pretty broad spectrum. So let me tell you where I want to go just for a minute before we show the video. I did not know about the November 2004 incident, but it leads right into where I want to go. So this group of ships goes out. Things fly over them and really right over the decks. And and after all that happened in 2014 to the Teddy Roosevelt Carrier Group and the people who are doing training missions off of Oceana, etc., and these stories will be known throughout the Navy. If you have these kinds of things, that intrude into your airspace, the commander of such a group has several priorities. One of the priorities is to protect the personnel and the asset from any kind of intrusion. And what reaction did we see from them? You know, from talking to people, just like I know from talking to people, that they just kept right on going and sent a few Snoopy teams out to take photographs.
Yeah,
this is unexplainable in the sense that no action was taken to try to defend themselves in any way by avoidance, turn around and go home. They just kept right on going. And so this says to me, the Navy has figured out how, and we do this all over the world with adversaries. We poke the dragon to see the reaction. We poke the dragon to see if the reaction is belch fire. And I'm telling you, everything about these stories tells me that the Navy is trying to stir up a reaction so they can gather enough evidence to try to figure out how they work or what they are or where they come from.
Well, I mean, the interesting part of this in the FOIA search with Dr. Adam Kehoe and Mark Scotti was that they quickly found these email exchanges between Third Fleet, Coast Guard, FBI, and NCIS that were specifically looking at the vessels around them. There were some foreign flag merchant ships and some other research vessels that were out there around the Channel Islands and San Clemente Island. And they're looking at these vessels thinking, this is like a week or so after the incidents were happening. They're like, hey, did you guys have, were you flying a drone? They asked to talk to one of the Carnival cruise ships. My point in this would be, wouldn't the equipment on the vessel, the suite, the Aegis suite of equipment, be able to kind of find out where the drones came from? That's the troubling part to me, because I would assume there would be a track or something of a drone that went directly to a ship if that's where it came from, and they would be able to, just like a aircraft, they would be able to track it. The fact that they're like, we don't know where these came from is very troubling to me, because it says, well, did they just sort of appear?
The other part of this is we would have a full spectrum look at these things. We would know where the control channels were. We would know where the sensor feeds were. We would know if there were drones and how they were communicating. We would have both ends of the link, especially since it's on the water. We would send out flying assets. I promise you, this was poking the dragon, because they did not react normally. And so, Dave, I think before we get too late, it's time to show a video.
Sure, we can do that. Let's do this here. There we go. So what people on the radio are not seeing is a picture of a USS destroyer by Catalina Island with these orange orbs that are flying around. It's a 13-second 3D composition here, Dave. You want to explain it to us about what this is all about?
Yes, this is a 3D animation that I created that simulates what these ships were seeing based on the descriptions within the logs. And this only happened at night. And, usually in poor visibility during that time that they were out there, there was a lot of fog, for instance. So they were operating in a fog bank sometimes. And these red flare-like objects would appear. They couldn't, as far as I can tell, they didn't seem to have a structure that was observable against the night sky. So at least with the naked eye, when they were looking at them, they looked like lights. Sometimes they were red lights. Sometimes they were white. Sometimes they were flashing red lights. That's what's described in the log. So I created this rendering to sort of help visualize probably what it kind of was like if you were out there. And it's sort of startling, actually. There was sometimes they would say multiple UAVs are surrounding the ship. That's some of the stuff in the logs. It gives you chills.
It's just if you don't know what it is and you don't know whether or not it's carrying a weapon, right there where they're over the bow of the ship, the only assumption the commanding officer can make is that his vessel is about to be attacked. That is the only thing. The commanding officer of the group and the commanding officer of each individual vessel had to have been ordered to take no action Otherwise, they would have. That is massive encroachment.
Unless they were planning a communication party.
Well, exactly. I mean, they're just trying to figure out how to get these things to react and show up. And otherwise, they would have reacted because their vessel and their personnel are in danger because they don't know what ordnance they're carrying or even if they have any weapons capabilities. But they can't afford not to assume they have some kind of kinetic capability. That's the only assumption they can afford to make.
There's only one instance that I saw that a vessel was sort of manning a targeting system called the Mark 87, which is on the bridge. It's similar to probably part of that device I showed earlier. You know, the Mark 87 system controls this targeting pod, which can use to be engaged with the weapon systems. So they did apparently, because it said like spotted the UAV, the next order is to man Mark 87. And I believe that they did get on the guns with these things, but they didn't open up. And as you said, I wonder why.
Yeah, because I mean, any kind of ordnance goes off with the Snoopy team on the deck, the ordnance goes off, the Snoopy team's dead. I mean, if it's, even if it's a frag grenade, the Snoopy team's dead or injured. Okay, Dave, have a question.
My question is, as somebody who's not familiar with how the United States Navy works, how many people would be viewing this situation? Would they pretty much tell the rest of the crew to go underneath into the ship's hull to their rooms? So that way there's very few people who actually are watching this happen?
That's exactly what I read in the logs. You see that they secure the weather decks. They call in the watch when these objects approach. That seems to happen many times. It says spotted UAVs, secure the watch. They bring these guys in off of the outside positions, bring them back into the bridge. So the personnel that are on the bridge, you know, however many there are, you know, like 6 or 7 people or so on, are all witnessing this, but they seem to be taking, you know, kind of a defensive stance. They were also in some cases turning off all RF. There's an order called MCON Alpha, which means emissions control, where they bring down the level of signature of the vessel so that any external observation using that type of technology, like it can't really track the ship very well. You know, so that was happening. They were taking some precautions, and they were probably bringing people in that were outside.
What was your opinion when all the reports came out and they kept calling these drones? Like, to me, when I hear the story, I don't think drones. I think something that if this is in a U.S. training facility, if it is from another nation, there could be something combative happening to that. Maybe quietly shoot one of these down just to see what exactly they are, or try and intercept or capture one. You know, but for this, to me, this really reeks of trying to communicate, trying to figure out everything that was going on. Like this ship group, almost like they were poised to be there at that time for this type of communication. Could I be wrong on that? Is it a far off assumption?
You know, it's pretty interesting when you look at the situation. You might say, well, this was some type of adversarial surveillance, operation where they're flying in drones from a Chinese oil tanker that's posing as a civilian, and they were using military drones to observe something. Well, they didn't seem to be coming around during the day, which is sort of odd. I mean, I guess you might say, well, at night then you're more cloaked, but why would you turn on a bunch of lights if you were trying to be, you know, stealthy? You would think kind of sneak in, you know, without turning your lights on, and you can, it's, you know, so there, some of those arguments don't make a lot of sense when you look at it. But again, they only showed up at night. It's sort of weird that, and they showed up kind of night after night. They were repetitive. So the Navy almost had a chance to sort of anticipate this stuff.
Yeah.
Bob.
Yeah, I just tell you. So when you're doing reconnaissance on a fleet like this, you really want to do as much as you can in the day, because you'll be able to resolve it through multispectral means, and you get a much better picture of everything that you can see visibly on the surface of the vessel. Whereas at night, where it's low light, you have to emit something that immediately makes you targetable by anti-radiation weapons, or you use IR, which is a long wavelength, and so you don't get as much detail in a long wavelength as you do the shorter visible wavelengths. So it just doesn't make sense to me that these are UAVs just looking at this vessel, especially since they're beaconing their position with these lights. So the thing I keep wondering, I hope that they have lots of multispectral imaging of these objects, because there's just kind of this hypothesis that's being floated around by all sorts of physicists, and I mean serious theoretical physicists of high caliber are now talking about how you make these warp fields around these vehicles so they can move transmedium, move through the atmosphere without friction, without sonic booms, with no obvious means of propulsion. This is because they've done space-time metric engineering, and what I believe is we could look. Many people know that in the sky you see gravitational lensing that was predicted by Einstein way back in the early days of galaxies and quasars around massive objects. So if these things are generating these kinds of fields, you would see things that look like gravitational lensing around them. And I just really wish we could see some of this video to see whether or not that kind of hypothesis stands up, because I'd love for us to figure out how to do warp drive. Just so great. Dave, take us. Surely we've got a couple of questions from a couple of viewers.
We do. Cherry Pepsi Mike in the chat room is asking, David, what do you think of the Chris Mellon leaks of information that have been going on?
Well, I mean, I guess he's talking about the stuff that happened in, I think it was 2018, where his website allegedly somebody found a unlocked section that had a bunch of material. If that's what he's talking about, I've never really figured that out. I mean, I take it at face value that he said that it was a mistake and that material wasn't really supposed to be leaked. It had, some personal information about the pilots. It had Luis Elizondo's resignation letter. It had some other details and some photographs of slides. Some people have said that could, be point towards some kind of counterintelligence thing. But again, when we look at what's happened since then, I don't see that that's shifted anything in any specific direction. So maybe it was just an inadvertent, thing where they didn't put the password on that website.
All right. One final question that we have is, we only got about 90 seconds with you, Dave. I asked this of a lot of people lately. Why now? Why all of a sudden, after 70 years of cover-up, are we now trying to figure this out publicly?
One of the things that's strange that I've kind of been puzzled about is that in the past, when there was incursions, for instance, around, say, sensitive facilities or military facilities, some of the objects that would be seen would be described as, glowing football-shaped objects, something like that. Now they're seeing drones, and you brought that up that maybe these aren't drones. I don't know if that's a catch-all term, a phrase that people are using when they say that. Well, what does that mean? What is a drone exactly? But there was reports of, over the facility, the Air Force facility in Guam, that there were like drone incursions. We remember the Colorado, Nebraska mystery drones from a year ago or so, never explained. And a nuclear power plant, I think the Palo Verde nuclear facility was visited by these drones. What's that? I mean, are those UFOs that are like people are labeling as drones? I don't know.
All right. Well, David Beaty, thank you so much for joining Dr. Bob McGwier and myself on Spaced Out Radio for your first time on the show. We really do appreciate it. Coming up next, we have Science Bob, we have me, and we're going to talk more UFOs for another hour before we get to the thought of the Dave and the SOR Newswire at the back end of hour 3. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Great job, Dave.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Dave. What a great
you.
show. That was
Appreciate
a
it.
lot of fun, man.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
A
that was
lot of
great.
fun.
I love talking about this stuff.
Bob, do you want me to leave this up or do you want me to remove it?
What? Leave what up? Oh no, leave it up.
Okay.
No, leave it up.
Okay.
You can keep it on a loop.
Sure. Yeah, that's the loop is me pressing play. But David, thank you. I've wanted to interview you for a couple of years and to finally get it to happen. I really do appreciate it. I wish you could stay longer, but I know you got to get up early in the morning. So thank you so much, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, no problem. We'll make it happen again in the future.
Absolutely, my friend. You take care, okay?
Okay, take care.
Tomorrow.
Good luck tomorrow. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Dave, I'm going to go get another coffee.
You do that. Put that there for now. Put that there for now. Hi, guys. How are you? I wonder what's with the flat earthers trying to crash the chat room tonight. I really wonder. You know, I have no problem with the flat earthers. I really don't. They're people too. But, you know, don't troll my chat room, man. Come in, you know, do your thing, and then hang out. Have some fun. Hey, Greg Moyes, thank you so much for that super chat. Really do appreciate it. Like, really, I don't mind. I don't mind them coming on in, hanging out. Yeah, I know I have to, PBR. I know which light it is, too. I got to move it up a little bit. Like, I really don't mind them coming on in. I really don't. But I just, you know, the trolling I can't handle. Oh, Miss Dill Pickles is on the final countdown. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Hey, Logan, how are you? PBR, what's going on, man? How you doing? Hi, Derek and Twitter. How's the Snarkettes? Please let us know. Did you know, ladies and gentlemen, that we are Eric with a K's fourth favorite show? We are number 4, people. We are number 4. And that is very important for us to remind everyone that Eric with a K, we are number 4 in his world. Hi, gorgeous Katie. How are you? Welcome. I have known that since the balloon photo came out. I was actually on the phone with Tim McMillan when that happened. We were talking about that photo. I know he has seen that. PBR, I will never let that go. Hey, a big thank you we're just waiting for Science Bob to return here. Big thank you to Dirty Filth, Mandingo, Science Bob, Mike, Greg, Catfish ×2, Dave, Bobby, Jules, and Wagon for the amazing super chats. Here we go. We rounded third. Actually, we haven't. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We want to say hello to everyone listening in around the world, wherever you may be tuning us in. We really do appreciate it. And, we also want to remind you that all of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor. Hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram @Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website, of course, is spacedoutradio.com. We continue on with Science Bob and friends here on Spaced Out Radio. Dr. Bob McGwier joins us once a month to talk about the who, what, where, when, why, and to try and break down all of this fantastic, beautiful woo that we get on a nightly basis. Science Bob, welcome back.
Oh, I'm happy to be here, Dave. This was so much fun tonight.
All right, let's start off with a question from Shadow Time Writer. It's about the Young Guns. Who sponsors them? I've never seen a group other than TTSA being advertised so much. Now, I can answer a part of that. I don't think they are sponsored, okay? And I'll be honest, early on, I did wonder if some of them were bought and paid for in regards to, the information that they were getting and putting out. However, I think what we are seeing is a new, more aggressive, social media savvy breed of researchers that puts everything out in public on UFO Twitter. And I think that many of them have done a great job. I think many of them need to grow up a bit. I've been very open about that. However, we cannot discount this newer generation of ufologists who are looking at the older generations as a bunch of dinosaurs who keep repeating the same stories rather than putting out pertinent information. Now, the only flaw, or one of the flaws that I see with many in UFO Twitter land and the Young Guns, is that they are quick to agree with everything that people say. They don't ask a lot of tough questions. They want to be everybody's friend rather than get down and dirty. It's okay to get dirty for a little bit. Bob, what do you think?
So they're very young, very enthusiastic, and I agree that over time, they're going to grow older just like the rest of us have. But they're doing a lot of amazing work, and I want to inform everybody and remind everybody that Richard Dolan is having a major day-long event on May 20th, and the Young Guns are featured on this Richard Dolan Day. You can go to Richard Dolan website and figure out what that is. We're not here to advertise it, but the Young Guns are being picked up by a lot of the old guard, and because they have lots of energy, they investigate everything. Sometimes they need to do a little deeper investigation before they put things in public, but some of them are really good interviewers. Some of them are really good writers. Some of them seem to have sources. So I think as a group, they are collectively a plus.
I would agree. Science Bob, one of the stories that popped up over the last couple of days, and it really took flight yesterday, is former Disney actress and pop singer Demi Lovato, who has recently, over the last few months, been spending time working on CE5 contact with the controversial Dr. Stephen Greer. Well, she has a new UFO show coming out on Peacock Television down in the United States. The episodes are currently being filmed. I was informed today about it. And one of the people that I talked to who happens to be involved with that show says it's going to be a little bit different than what everybody expects. However, I'm curious to get your opinion, and I want to spend some time. Does ufology need a Demi Lovato?
Okay, so I don't mind saying who we're talking about because it was done in public. Dave Altman put out in public that he is involved with that show and that it is not what everybody is thinking. So here's what Demi Lovato brings: 50 million followers on Twitter. And if a person like Demi Lovato takes a responsible approach to bringing out discussion and information and attracts high quality people to come and talk and interact and tell us things and show us evidence, it can be a great plus. But since we don't know, we don't even have a trailer yet. We don't even have snippets. So we don't really understand what the showrunners have in mind. So Demi Lovato is a big name. She could be a big plus. We just have to wait and see. So I saw some video of her out at Joshua Tree with Stephen Greer, and she is truly into this. So hopefully that enthusiasm is tempered by people that are advising her and interacting with her, and we get good things out of it because the field could use something good.
I have no problem with her, and I was kind of debating this on last night's show, whether it's a good thing or not for ufology. I think popularity-wise, the more people and the more people with major followers on social media, like Demi Lovato on Twitter, for instance, she has 55.4 million followers. That gets a good message out. But the one thing that I am very concerned about is it seems like when actors or actresses or musicians' careers all of a sudden go a little bit rocky or a little bit stagnant, we all of a sudden find them on some paranormal show. We all of a sudden find them on some UFO show, trying to all of a sudden, capture some sort of glitter of attention through the paranormal or supernatural. And I don't know if, with her lack of experience and basically only following Dr. Stephen Greer, on whether or not that she has done a lot of research on this. And I talked to Dave Altman about it earlier today. I said, is she going to be doing interviews? Because that's a big thing. Is she going to be doing interviews, or are we going to have some glam piece in Vanity Fair about her seeing a UFO? And that's the type of coverage we're going to get. Because I think that when we see people just jump into this field and all of a sudden they're players in the field and people look at them as so-called quote unquote experts, I think is dangerous for the real work and the boots on the ground that's being done.
So look, I found Blue Book entertaining on the History Channel. It was entertaining, but it had crap all to do with the actual historical facts of Hynek's life and the things Hynek and Jacques Vallée and the other researchers did trying to gather evidence at Blue Book. So if it's anything like that, it'll be bad. So the showrunners are going to want to try to make a big splash and capitalize on her popularity to get high viewership. Well, you can't get high viewership if you bore people with dull facts. And I'm worried about how the narratives that will be displayed will be shaped to titillate and draw a large audience. I'm just worried that it could be rotten. Hopefully it will not be rotten. Hopefully Demi Lovato has some excellent people around her and they will do great things. And so, it could be like William Shatner or somebody like that that's run these shows, Samuel L. Jackson, etc., had these shows about strange things and paranormal things where they were the host, they were the MC, but the actual people having the experiences were the actual story. Hopefully the showrunners do something like that. Well, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, I got told by someone very, very involved in this subject, and I'll keep this person's name quiet for right now, that they were aiming and targeting very, very popular people. That was one of the next games in the game plan, that they were targeting very popular people for the sake of them getting the message out about how real this is. Look, we can talk on this show all we want. We have a number of listeners. We don't have coast to coast type listeners, okay, but we have a number. But you know what? I can't compare on Twitter my 7,500 followers compared to her 55 million.
True. That's
okay.
All true. So like Grant Cameron has this top drawer, top shelf, major Hollywood family member who has daily experiences. So if that person will come out completely and tell the story and show the evidence to Demi Lovato, that would be a great thing, because Grant hasn't gotten this person on the air yet. If that happens, that'll be great. So if we get a lot of A-list celebrities who have seen things and have stories to tell, and Demi Lovato and the showrunners do a good job of it, that could be a plus. But it can't only be that, in my opinion, and do us any real good.
But I hope it's legit. I really do, because this field has been craving this much momentum for a long time, Science Bob. And we don't want to run off the rails because somebody wants to play ufologist on television. That is my only concern.
Yes. So Demi Lovato is kind of in betwixt and in between. She has a controversy going on with this yogurt company, but apparently NBC does not think this is a really big deal, that she can overcome it and it won't be a problem. So they're going to put her on Peacock. It's not like they're going to put her on NBC TV primetime. It's going to be on Peacock. So you got to stream it.
Very true. Very true. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the UFO incidents that are coming up. Every day we seem to see something more happening in the world of ufology. And I mean, we've wanted this for a long time, and yet there are people out there who are like ragging on the information that is officially getting out. How do we balance the mainstream media from the alternative media? Because those who are used to listening to shows like this about the alternative and getting the deeper information, some of them are actually having troubles with all the stuff that's trying to get out there on the mainstream. How do you deal with both?
Well, I got to tell you, when I first became interested in figuring out what was going on with these UFOs, because I was seeing some of the now leaked out or published or put out evidence before I left my position and turned off my security clearance so I could retire. I saw a lot of stuff. And so I began investigating. And I just had to wade through and find reasonable people that were widely respected, who authored things that were worth reading, who had opinions that had withstood the test of time. And that was my guide. I followed people and read what they wrote and followed their writings and their videos, etc., until I got a sense of who was telling us something worth listening to. And I just had to learn how to filter it by doing research. And then not everybody has time to do that or has the experience at doing that kind of research. So it's best if we have these stories, in my opinion, filtered for us by people who have the kind of necessary tools to filter stuff through research for them. And they learn to have to find people they trust.
Okay. If we look into the UFO subject, previously to this, we were really wanting about the technology. It was all about the technology. For the last 2 years, all we were really hearing, Bob, was about, the propulsion systems, the anti-gravity systems, the way these craft could break the sound barrier without making a sound, or go from, sea level to 40,000 feet in under 1 second. I mean, this is what we were hearing all about. Now the tune seems to be changing towards the military side about whether or not, we're being invaded in our military airspaces around North America. Has the program shifted, in your opinion?
Okay, so put the video back up.
Sure.
Look, the United States military, along with our allies, see stuff like this, and they have only one assumption they can make. They have to look constantly to assess whether or not it's a threat. And from what we're hearing in the media that is around other countries that are our adversaries, you could go online and find all sorts of stuff. When the People's Republic of China and the Russian military and so forth are all seeing these kinds of things. It's everywhere. And to me, what you're seeing right there right now is that ship is being surveilled. It's having reconnaissance done on it. And until we know why they are doing this reconnaissance over these military vessels, we just don't know the answer. Now, what is one of the more interesting things about this particular incident with the kid, et cetera, and these other destroyers? Not one of them's nuclear. These are not nuclear vessels. So that means that they are not only attracted to these vessels because they're nuclear. That is unless right under the kid there is a nuclear submarine. But we won't know because we can't see below the water. But maybe these things can. But look, I'm telling you, the military is looking at this, trying to assess whether or not these things are doing reconnaissance in preparation for an attack. Because that's their job. That's their sole purpose, is to defend the homeland against all enemies, domestic and foreign. And they have to make an assessment as to whether or not these things are a threat. And we don't know the answer because they don't interact with us. Now, I keep hearing, Dave, rumors about intelligent interaction having occurred. And I would love for that stuff to come out, that we've actually had an interaction.
Right. I want to, and this is something I have said for a while here on this show, and I've talked to you about it, but Shadow Time Writer, we're going to ask that question. He's from our chat room here. This has been going on for decades. It's nothing new. Why are they acting as if it is? And that's an important question here, Bob, because it's something that we've asked on this show as well.
Well, so Gerald and Linda Costa are about to bring out their latest version of their UFO desk reference. It's available for order on Amazon. And I know what's in it because I wrote the preface. Okay, so the rate of occurrence of these observations over ships, over military installations, over cities, over nuclear power plants, over all sorts of things is really going up. It's really going up. So I something is happening and we don't know the answer. And I think this is part of why now is the rate of incursions over all sorts of installations, cities with impunity. Like they don't even care if you see them. Has got awakened some interest in what's going on to the point where the ranking minority member on the Senate Select Committee for Intelligence will talk about UFOs every time he's asked. And it's just things are different. They are not as before. Those things are not in hiding. And the government realizes that everybody and their brother has a high-tech piece of surveillance equipment in their pocket. And they're going to take these videos and make sound recordings, and these things are going to get out. And pretty soon, it'll be a tidal wave of evidence that something's going on, and governments will will have to answer the question: are these things a threat? And if not, what do they want?
I has asking, and we got about 4.5 minutes here. Bob, what does interaction mean in this context? Like Greer's laser blinking responses, etc.
No, what I'm talking about is intelligent interaction in both directions. That's the rumor. And I don't have any personal information or anything else other than I'm hearing that a lot and from different places. And I just, that would be a major deal, just major, if we have two-way interaction where digital data is being transferred back and forth between them and us, whatever they are.
I still think that a date, Bob, has been set. And we can get into this in the next half hour when we get more audience questions or whatever. But we got about 3 minutes here to go. I still think a date has been set, Bob. And that's the reason why that we are in a rush here. I think we've been contacted. I don't mind going on record on that. I may sound like I'm full of woo. I may sound like I'm making up stuff. I don't have any proof whatsoever, but reading between the lines, it just makes sense to me. Do you think that we have been contacted with a date, and that's why we're going to see all of this and more coming up here very soon?
So that would be an excellent explanation for why the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence wrote part of a funding bill that has now set a date for a report from the Pentagon and the intelligence community, and that will be run through the Director of National Intelligence Office and then handed off to Senate Committee on Intelligence and the House Committee for Intelligence and the Armed Services Committee. So it smells like you're right, and I am certain that you, like me, have had people say that is true. And but we, again, you and I don't have evidence. All we can do is hope that it is true, that we learn things we don't know, and that it's not bad things that have been hidden from us.
It also gets us out of having to tell about the past.
It's true, absolutely true.
All right,
exactly. So let's talk about the past in the next half hour.
Yeah, because there's a lot of secrets. Whether it's Shag Harbor, whether it's Roswell, whether it's alien bodies from crash retrievals that Lou Elizondo has been talking about. There is a lot of old secrets out there that we may not want to come out. Okay, imagine, and I'm just throwing this out there because the story is very, very much a rumor, but imagine if it was true that President Eisenhower did make a deal with extraterrestrials to trade humans for technology. We don't know if that happened. We don't know. I mean, we can surmise that it probably is not likely, but what if it did happen? These are the types of secrets that will never come out of the vault for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. Once everything is changed on this map again, and there is no republic, there is no Canada, there is no other countries out there, Bob.
Well, look, if such a thing were to come out and it to be admitted, the never-ending lawsuits and criminal cases would just bury everything. It just can't happen. It's just that kind of detail is just not coming out.
I agree with you. But, I mean, that's the secrets that they have to try and dodge. That's the redacted stuff we're not going to see as of June 25th.
If any of it's true, we're not going to see it.
What about Roswell?
We may learn something. Well, look, according to Chris Mellon, the new book by Harris and Valet is going to be a crash case recovery from 1945 that is not Roswell, and that they have extraordinary new evidence. I hope it's not just eyewitness testimony, that they actually have some documentary and hard physical evidence.
All right. Hour 3 with Science Bob McGwier is coming up next on Science Bob and Friends here on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to stick with the UFO topic. We got Bob until the bottom of the hour. Then we have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Dave. A jam-packed hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio is coming up next. All right, I'm just going to run out. I'll be right back.
Okay.
You can chat with the audience. There are some questions there if you want to take them. Once again, if you want to, my cousin Gary was wondering your address again. What is it? NH4Y? N4HY.
N4HY.
N4HY. If you want to talk on shortwave radio with Science Bob.
Look on your shortwave radio.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
there. Yes, the world will be a different place if we are told they are here. That's absolutely true. But it's funny to me, Nicola. The funny thing is nobody trusts the government, and everybody's waiting on hearing from the government. It's just it's cognitive dissonance. No one trusts the government, but everybody wants to hear from the government. And well, I hope we hear from the government. So there you go. See. So Moonlick, what makes that tin can special? Well, it's one of our armed vessels, and so if they want to come down and have a chit chat, they want to have an idea of what they're going to be facing when they get here, and to see if they're immune to it. And I am not a CIA shield. I have no security clearance, and I'm not employed by the federal government in any capacity. Oh, hey, Melinda. How's it going? Melinda, we need to have a personal show when we put together cameras and point them at your sky for a few days. I can't wait to get that together. I think we'll have all the necessary pieces to plan in about 1 month. So we'll be talking, Melinda, to see how to get some interesting things on objective evidence from sensors from Sedona, Arizona. Hey, John, how you doing? I think there are multiple groups, John. I really do. Whitney, that's not correct. So once you have signed a non-disclosure agreement, that is a lifelong commitment. But once you retire from the government, you are no longer with the government. I can't go back into the CIA or the NSA or anywhere else and see what they're doing because I'm no longer allowed. I'm not a member. I've heard all sorts of rumors about the Navy, and the Navy's, I'm going to tell you, they're being pretty open. So I've heard rumors of things being tracked underwater that move at speeds that don't seem physically possible. So anyway, yeah. So there are some rumors about things being looked for underwater. Of course, what a great place to hide. 75% of the earth is covered by ocean. It's a great place to hide. Well, Tiny Squish, what the United States government has passed through its legislature and been signed by the president says the government will produce a unclassified truthful report. Now, does that mean it'll be complete? No. Yeah, and Melinda, I'll send you, I meant to be a minute to send you, I'll send you the 3 orbs in a triangle right in front of my front porch, caught on my blink camera. Yeah, that's interesting. I'll send it to you via messenger or something, Melinda. I think Bill Gates is an alien. What do you think? I know absolutely nothing about Valiant Thor other than I've seen all those writings and I've seen the pictures of what is ostensibly Valiant Thor, but I don't know how he can come from Venus. I don't know. I can't make heads nor tails of that. But he certainly, the story is he was housed inside the Pentagon until he decided to go home.
All right. Let's save the rest of the questions for the next half hour.
Got it.
Which one did you get up to?
Oh, I don't know. I'm beyond proud of the Navy and whole. No, I got up through is Bill Gates an alien? I got why did so many people assume it isn't one group, it's multiple groups from John Hudson? I answered a bunch of them. I just started recurrent and went backwards.
Cool. Works for me. All right. If you get a message from Cousin Gary on your shortwave there, radio, that's Cousin Gary.
That's Wascally Wobbit on your radio.
Mm-hmm.
That looks like moonshine, Dave.
I wish. I wish. I want to say a big thank you to you, Science Bob. You not only come on this show, but you support us with super chats. So thank you so much. Big thanks to Mike, to Greg, to Catfish ×2, Wagon Breath, Dirty Filth, Mandingo, Bobby, Gorgeous Jules, and Dave for the amazing super chats. Thank you so much to everybody who supports us on a nightly basis. We really do appreciate it, and it's a good way to support what we do on a nightly basis. And thank you to all of our new subscribers, and of course, to all the veterans who are listening to this show. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we're going to get going here right now.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, as well as digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Obstriligate. Obstriligate is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with Science Bob and friends. Dr. Bob McGwier is with us. We're talking UFOs all night long here on the show. Dr. Science Bob, welcome back.
Happy to be here, Dave.
All right. We were talking about UFOs, taking some questions from our audience. Let's start off with Vin here, who is asking, Bob, what do you think about the simulation theory?
Oh, so this is up in the air, but it looks like that it's possible that the universe is a simulation being run by God or the universal consciousness or whatever. That is a hypothesis for how the universe works. I don't know all of the experimental evidence that is used or proposed. I don't think it's conclusive. I think that there is becoming belief that we are a hologram, but it's not like the laser holograms like Princess Leia on Star Wars. It's much more complex than that, but never mind. That looks like it could be possible, where I won't go into technical detail, but it looks like that could be possible. So simulation theory is interesting, that we are a computer programming running on a universal computer. I believe that it has been pretty close to conclusively proved that if any entity has a brain like ours, that our consciousness cannot be a computer program running on it. The work of Penrose and Hameroff and others I think has really put a serious dent in that theory that our brains are computers and all we are is a program running on it. I think it's much more complex than that.
Okay. So if we look at this as a simulation theory and we put it towards potential ET type contact, where do you think this contact is coming from? It could be coming from anywhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, whoever the programmer is can set up whatever conditions they want to get these contacts here, no, irrespective of what our physical laws say, because they're writing the program.
So where do you think they're from? Inner Earth? Outer space? Are they our brethren from the future?
So if you look at Jacques Vallée's hypothesis and John Keel and others, they're from, I don't think there's one flavor. I believe that it is possible that warp drive has taken alien species from nearby or either far stars and allowed them to fly here, either through robotic rovers like we send to Mars. I mean, we know a planet that's entirely populated by robots. It's Mars. Okay, so we know that's possible. And if we develop warp drive, they can build robots that could take 1,000-year journey because they don't need life support. And so they could be here en masse with their robotic rovers running around taking a look at us. Okay, so that's possible. And also there could be these interdimensionals which are traveling through wormholes or alternative universes. And now there's a hypothesis. So we believe the Big Bang for many reasons. One of the many reasons that we believe in the Big Bang is that we can see all around the Earth in every direction we look, this cosmically large microwave background radiation, which has the black body temperature of around 2 degrees Kelvin, and it's nearly uniform. Its variance is really tiny. But there are these places that look like holes in this cosmic microwave background, and it's now hypothesized that we have run into the bubble of another parallel universe. That's one of the theories. And so we are in one of the most rapid periods of growth in our understanding of the universe and the physical world we have ever been in, and it's only accelerating. And artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, etc., is going to come along, and our knowledge of the universe and our ability to interact with machines that can help us figure this stuff out is about to explode on us, where we don't even recognize who we are anymore.
Cedric has a question, and then I want to get into Jacques Vallée and Paula Harris's latest book.
We got to.
Okay, Cedric is asking, do you think alien UFOs is U.S. military technology not fully developed being tested on civilians?
I do not. That's the thing, because I just do not believe that alien technology developed by the military could be kept secret for long enough, because there'll be people that are angry that there are billions of people on the earth starving to death or living in squalor when there's free energy and transport instantaneously to anywhere in the world could be had. So I think that if such a thing were true, it would be fear of national boundaries breaking down, because I could wake up in India and be in New York City in a microsecond. So I just think that if such a thing is true, it's this political nationalism that keeps us from exposing it for fear of breaking down and becoming a one world government. But I just don't believe it. I just believe that if we had it, we would know it.
Okay, quickly here from Gringo. Are they using quantum computing for good or evil?
Yes. Quantum computing is being used for good and for bad. And so let me give you an example. Quantum computing is being used to be able to do massively improved logistics, like moving things around, using the minimum amount of energy and fuel, etc. That's a massively good thing, because the more energy we save, the cheaper energy you get, and the more we have to do things. But it's also being used to do chemical, to to use quantum chemistry to find new materials that can be used in weapons. So it's both. It's like all technology. It depends on the user.
All right. Paula Harris and Jacques Vallée have a power book coming out about UFOs and crash retrievals. This book has been already given the thumbs up by Christopher Mellon, who says that there is some very elaborate details in this book. Tell us what you know about it.
I know nothing more than what we've been told, and I've been extremely skeptical, especially after they withdrew it, because it was based on this case that has, according to many circles, been debunked completely. So there has to be new evidence, new research, hopefully new physical evidence that shows us that the debunking evidence was put out there to aid in a cover-up. So I'm hoping they have real quality evidence that kind of completely constrains and boxes the story into this had to be a crash that we retrieve stuff from. I really hope that's what it is. And given Jacques Vallée's past, I expect nothing less, but I'm just going to stay skeptical until I read it for myself.
Okay, now let's talk about crash retrievals here for a second, because this has been one of those hot button topics that really came out of nowhere when we've all talked about it. We all know about Roswell. We all know about Shag Harbor. We know about Kecksburg and other places where this has happened. But there's a lot more out there that we are starting to find out. Luis Elizondo, who has been very shy over the last couple of years, up until he was on this show, about talking about anything to do with aliens or crash retrievals. Now, all of a sudden, he is opening up to it. Now we're seeing Chris Mellon talk about Jacques Vallée and Paula Harris's new book about crash retrievals. This is becoming the new topic of very keen interest for many of us in the UFO world, because we want to know what's happened. Okay, when we look at these crash sites, what should we be looking for? How many, if you know or are allowed to say, have actually happened?
I do not know how many have happened, but I can tell you this. People that have signed lifelong NDAs are now talking about crash retrievals. Some of them are no longer with the government or no longer have a need to know for what their current jobs are. This includes Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, Eric Davis. We have the Wilson documents, and more stuff is coming out about Wilson just no longer in denying it, but mealy-mouthing it. And so I just think that the time has come where we had Goodall on this show, and we talked to Goodall for 2.5 hours. And what I thought was a bombshell, if it could be proven, was Goodall, who was a major Trump supporter, said to us that he knew for a fact that Trump had ordered declassification of all the UFO materials. And so I went, what? And then shortly after that, we began to get a floodgate. People started talking more than they had ever talked before. We had piles of documents that had been on FOIA, etc., by John Greenwald for years, suddenly flowed into his office, and like a light switch had turned on. And so I have this guess. It's this pure guess based on 30 years of working at high levels in the intelligence community and DOD with the United States government. Trump probably did what his good friend Lou Dobbs wanted him to do and ordered the declassification. And the government bureaucracy said, look, let's sit on it and wait to see how the outcome of the presidential election is, and if we can talk the new president into reclassifying it. Okay? So here's what I think. Trump probably did it because his son and Lou Dobbs wanted him to do it, and they waited around to see what Joe Biden would do. And Joe Biden has said, Trump did it. I won't be blamed for it. Let's leave it like it is and see where it goes. So that's what all of this feels like, is that there's been some kind of actual declassification, And people that are now talking about things that they know used to be classified, but given President Trump's order is no longer classified, are now talking. That is all the string of, this is the string of breadcrumbs along the road that I have been eating and picking up and put together to give you that narrative. But that's what it feels like to me. Trump declassified, and people are now talking, and Biden hasn't stopped it.
Okay, why wouldn't President Biden stop it?
Maybe he wants to know. Maybe he wants it out. But look, look, we know, Dave, we know from all sorts of directions, sources, etc., that the United States government and governments around the world have treated their own people badly about the UFO phenomenon. Very, very badly. People were treated like they were interacting with demons if they were having something to do with a UFO. And so I think people are wanting this off their back, because if you take a project and you classify it at the highest possible level, where it's all sap, black, unacknowledged, hidden away in the bowels of some corporation, that costs you 1,000 times as much money to do the project, because all the security, secrecy, etc., and the major amount of controls, physical and other, that have to be put around it. It would be great if that level of classification could leave this subject, because it would save a ton of money.
Okay, so in your opinion here, as we got about 8 minutes left, what stories do you see remaining classified?
Oh, if corporation ABC had a security squad that, when they found somebody was talking about their piece of the puzzle, went out and did bad things that are illegal, or at least would cause a large civil suit, we are never going to be told those stories.
Okay, what I guess where I'm trying to go with that question is, if we already have ET contact, let's say Valiant Thor is real. Let's say J-Rod is real. Let's say, what's the alien Bob's name, or whatever they call him,
Skinny Bob, whatever.
Skinny Bob is real. All right. Do those stay classified?
So look, if they are a sentient being and we kept them in jail until they died, that's kind of ugly, Dave. That's really ugly. And I just don't think that kind of story will be told. If we kept Skinny Bob trapped in a cell until he died, that's not cool. And I don't think people want to talk about or admit it was done.
What about, let's say, alien bodies from crash retrievals? Does that stay classified?
That, I think, could possibly come out, is if we actually have alien bodies that we claim died in a crash, and we just found them laying around. That is possible. Look, if the crash materials come out, it's possible the alien bodies come out. It's possible, because there was no crime committed in them dying.
What about Roswell?
Oh, Dave, just go read any serious Roswell book. There were lots of infractions of people's constitutional rights around Roswell to cover it up. I don't think the details of that will ever come out.
Okay. Kecksburg.
I am unaware of any major constitutional infractions. I think people were scared, but I don't think people were hurt or harmed other than told to keep their mouth shut, which is unenforceable because they're talking now and nothing's happening to them. But the Acorn, if it was picked up and it's taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, I hope one day we see the Acorn.
What about something like the Phoenix Lights?
Oh, I think we know everything we could possibly know about that, or just denying it, because I think that is one instance where, if we actually have proof that a craft a mile wide floated down the state of Arizona, and the government never admitted it, that they're worried people will be scared to death. But I think now, if we know more about it, why it was here and what it was doing, we are more likely to, and we're not afraid of it. We're more likely to hear about it than if it's something bad and they're scared to tell people how bad it is.
John makes an interesting comment into the chat room. Anything with liability will never come out.
That's
What's your
opinion.
thoughts on that?
John and I are in complete agreement. Hello, John. Good to see you.
Yeah, he's wearing his Stetson tonight. It's a brown Stetson.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so for people who may not understand the liability factor, Bob, what do you mean by that?
Well, if people who were in Roswell had threats made, property damage, all this other stuff, and their estates could have the ability to sue the federal government for things that were done to them, and those kind of civil case, you don't have statute of limitations on civil cases. You have statute of limitations on violations of law. But if someone was murdered, in most states, there's no statute of limitations. There's certainly no statute of limitations on murder in federal law.
All right. Going forward here, where do you see the cover up to open up and or to end, or where do you see it staying closed as we move forward?
I believe with this report, all we're going to see is recent incidents. That's all we're going to see. We'll be shown evidence, possibly, of things that are happening recently, like 2000 forward, let's say. I don't think we'll hear a whole lot about the 1940s, unless Jacques Vallée and Paula Harris show us evidence that's just incontrovertible to the point where we can name names and go talk to them about why have they lied to us and so forth. And this just be so interesting. I do like the stuff coming out now from Harry Reid claiming that Lockheed Martin has a ton of saucer stuff in their basement. That would be awesome if that came out.
Yeah, that was quite a little fire over Lockheed Martin's bow for sure. Senesate in the chat room is asking, how far into the future will UFO technology push us?
Look, we're on an extremely fast pace in growing our own homegrown knowledge. So that's a hard thing to say. So I believe once we get actual functioning quantum computers where we can do quantum chemistry, quantum physics, quantum study of physical systems, that we're rapidly going to figure out things that we didn't know before about the universe. So, but I see that happening like in the next 10 years. So, but after that, it's clear that given the descriptions we've had so far of the materials sciences that are involved in the manufacture of these things that are crashed craft, that we have a long way to go before we can manipulate things down to the quantum level and manufacture stuff. I mean, that's literally what Gary Nolan and Jacques Vallée said at the end of a television series last year, is that they were seeing materials that had been manufactured down at the atomic level.
Okay, quickly here, as we got about a minute. This Sunday, 60 Minutes is going to do a large report on UFOs. We're going to see a lot of people, including Lou Elizondo, on this. What do you expect?
I'm expecting us to hear the most we have heard yet from these people, because given my hypothesis about Trump declassifying stuff and Biden choosing not to reclassify it, we're going to actually hear stuff, or CBS would not actually put it on. And I'm very happy that after that show, you and I and others are going to be on with Grant Cameron in a panel discussion about what it is we've heard and what it means.
Yes, and once again, we do want to say, I will get a date. We'll put it on our Twitter handle, and we will put it on our Facebook pages, that on Sunday after the 60 Minutes panel, we will be joining Grant Cameron and Nicole Sackage on one of their YouTube channels. We'll get a link for everybody to go watch that and get the panel discussion on the 60 Minutes piece they will do on UFOs this Sunday. Science Bob, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio, my friend.
It's always a pleasure, Dave. It's just it's a lot of fun, and we've had some great guests. It's been a great fun.
Absolutely. Science Bob and Friends happens once a month here on Spaced Out Radio, and we thank him for it. Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire. We have the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, quick question from Shadow Time because we ran out of time. Cash Landrum, Richard Doty said on Stephen Greer's channel that the AFOSI debriefed the Air Force pilots flying that UFO. It killed those 2 women and burned that little boy. Do you know about that?
I do not, and I've not had a chance to talk to Richard Dole about it. But that's a good thing for me to discuss. You know, Richard and I have become friends, and we talk regularly, and I just keep forgetting to ask him about it.
Awesome. My friend, thank you.
My pleasure. And I'm going to drop off, and good luck to the SOR audience. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you next month.
And you and I will talk tomorrow morning.
Yep. See ya.
See you later. Science Bob, everybody. Science Bob. There we go. We'll say goodnight to him as we get ready for the news. Shirky Poo's got us all loaded up. And, yeah, guys. That was a good show. That was a very good show. It's amazing watching our YouTube numbers all of a sudden go pew, straight down the minute Science Bob leaves. It's kind of funny. We do have more show, people. You don't have to leave. Leave me all high and lonely here. Like in the last 45 seconds, it's been like 20 people. It's kind of funny. Oh, well. Melinda, I've got you scheduled. Let me check here. Hold on. When is Melinda Leslie? Melinda Leslie is scheduled for May 25th, the day after my birthday, Melinda. And guess who's on the following night? Lou Elizondo. Then the following night after that, Tim McMillan. We have a power week of things going on. A power week. Chad Smith. Thank you so much for that super chat. Really do appreciate it. And I want to say a big thank you to Cedric, to Rye, to Cherry Pepsi Mike, Science Bob, Bobby, Catfish, Mandingo, Greg, Catfish again, Dave, Gorgeous Jules, Wagon Breath, and Dirty Filth for the amazing super chats tonight. Really do appreciate it, everyone. It's a great way to support what we do on this show. And, yeah, I can't do it without you guys. You guys treat me way too well. Way too well. Thank you. We got a lot of UFO stuff coming up. A lot of UFO stuff. Is it our Keith Andrews' birthday tomorrow? I don't know. I don't know. Dirty Filth. Yes, I agree with you. We are going to have some hot wings. Hey, Dirty Filth, could you do me a favor? Could you on Facebook message me and send me your phone number? I got to talk to you about a couple of things with the New Look website, if you don't mind. I would appreciate that. And if you're available for a phone call tomorrow, let me know. Magic 8 Ball happens on Tuesdays. But we missed it this past Tuesday because I kind of went on a rant about the whole Demi Lovato thing. Yeah, Dirty Filth, let me know what time you're available tomorrow too. Jeff Elder in the Spreaker chat. How you doing, man? Jareth Barrett and Dr. Effin Rowe in the Revolution Radio chat room. You guys are looking awfully handsome tonight. Awfully handsome. All right, here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Speaking of the news, the news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the weird. Yeah. Judge Jeffrey Middleton, a rising YouTube star who hosts a live chat during Zoom court, brusquely dismissed a ding-dong who showed up to an arraignment with the name of Butt Effer 3000. Butt Effer 3000. Thank you, Twitter, for bringing the masterful performance to our attention. Yes, sadly, the official video was removed, but Gizmodo, who reported this story, viewed it this morning, and a tweet memorializing the exchange is embedded. Bring this fool in, Middleton told the camera as the person monikered Butt Effer 3000 entered the chat. Good morning, sir. What's your name? Me? Yeah, you. Nathaniel Saxon, sir. Your name's not Butt Effer 3000, you yo-ho, Middleton said dryly. Logging into my court with that as your screen name, what kind of idiot logs into court like that? Saxon muttered that he had never typed anything like that and apologized, and Middleton put him in waiting room jail to think about what he has done. Saxon later pleaded guilty to possession of drug paraphernalia, a misdemeanor punishable by a maximum of 90 days in jail and a $500 fine. Middleton, who started his YouTube channel in April 2020, has since amassed nearly 13,000 subscribers. Other now Middleton classics include pointing out that you shouldn't zoom to court from the driver's seat of your car when you're also on trial for several traffic violations. Also, adjourning a hearing after learning that a defendant accused of abuse appeared in the same apartment as the plaintiff. These are the results of 3 million hours from Zoom court in Michigan alone. Middleton, aware of his growing fandom, wrapped about his no BS brand, has addressed the peanut gallery of YouTube live chatters. We've started to become a popular spot for people to watch court proceedings, and that's all good. We're transparent, he said, but we've developed a community of followers who post things on chat that are grossly inappropriate. And also, the prosecutor brought me some text from this morning from Gorilla Glue number 4 and a bunch of other people who are posting inappropriate things on our chat feed. So I'm going to turn it off. He turned off the chat, and yeah, that wasn't too good. Middleton had previously told them that the mixture of sloppy home tune-ins and a vast following has been profound and in some cases troubling. Zoom Court has also been blessed with the Supreme Court toilet flush. I am not a cat attorney, Zoom bombed with rimming porn, and a doctor in what looks like a bloodied mask streaming from the OR. Gotta love it. Gotta absolutely love it. Moving on here. Voyager 1 launched from Earth in 1977, currently 14 billion miles away, making it the most distant human-made object. The probe is so far flung that it has spent about a decade in interstellar space, where it has made mind-boggling discoveries about the great expanse beyond the heliopause. Well, for instance, Voyager 1's latest dispatches include the detection of tantalizing hum of plasma waves, emissions generated by hot gas in interstellar space, with the origins that have yet to been fully explained. The probe has been picking up this extremely weak narrowband plasma wave emission since 2017, a period in which the spacecraft has traveled about 10 times farther than the distance between the Earth and the Sun. The faint hum is likely the first continuous measurement of the density of matter in interstellar space and sheds light on the interactions between the star systems and the vast interstellar medium between them. These discoveries really tell us a lot about how the interstellar medium is structured right outside of the solar system, said Stella Koch-Oker, a Cornell doctoral student in astronomy, which led the study in a call. The new signal was recorded by an instrument on the Voyagers called the Plasma Wave System, which was primarily designed to detect particle interactions within the magnetospheres of the solar system's giant planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Once Voyager 1 crossed the heliopause in 2012, the instrument began to pick up plasma waves in interstellar space with distinct signatures lasting in duration from days to a year that could be traced back to specific solar events such as flares, or, in our case, probably aliens. A group of conservation scientists say it's time for the return of an American classic, the Jaguar. They are arguing that jaguars can and should be safely reintroduced to the United States, not only to help ensure their continued survival, but also address the injustice that led to their local demise more than 50 years ago. Jaguars are the only living big cats native to the Americas. Cougars, another native wildcat, are actually more closely related to domestic cats than tigers and other big cats. Once, the jaguar's domain reached far across South and Central America and ended up to the mountainous forests of modern-day central Arizona and New Mexico. But human hunting, some of which was sanctioned by the U.S. government, obliterated the population in the U.S., by the mid-20th century. Nowadays, the lone jaguar or two might end up in the U.S. after traveling from Mexico, but it's not that often. Conservation Science and Practice newspaper, wildlife researchers from several institutions and conservation organizations are making the case for jaguar reintroduction to their native habitats in the southwestern U.S. The jaguar lived in these mountains long before Americans did, said lead author Eric Sanderson, a senior conservation ecologist with the Wildlife Conservation Society. If done collaboratively, reintroduction could enhance the economy of this region and the ecology of this incredible part of the jaguar range. Their basic argument is that bringing back jaguars would meet all the essential criteria for reintroduction. Jaguars remain an endangered species, and reintroduction would likely increase their chances of long-term survival, partly because their native habitat in the U.S. is uniquely diverse compared to the regions where they live now. It would be safe for both the cats and people, since the scientists are proposing they be reintroduced to areas that are largely owned publicly or by indigenous tribes and are sparsely populated by humans, and it would simply restore a crucial part of the ecosystem. Hey, look what happened to Yellowstone when they reintroduced the wolves. It's amazing. I think that the jaguar needs to come back. That's just me. Even though I ain't going in the forest there because I'm a meal. Nope, not doing it. Mystic Aquarium in Connecticut is preparing for the arrival of 5 beluga whales from a zoo and amusement park here in Canada after navigating approval process on both sides of the border and overcoming legal challenges from environmental groups. Government officials from Fisheries and Oceans Canada recently approved the export of the whales from marine land in Niagara Falls to Mystic, which specializes in beluga research. That follows U.S. approval that the move was approved last September. Experts from both facilities were in Niagara Falls examining 4 female and 1 male belugas and preparing to fly them to Connecticut as early as this weekend. The whales are expected to spend a few weeks acclimating to their new environment in tanks separated by a gate from Mystic's 3 current resident belugas before being fully integrated into the 750,000-gallon habitat. Now, the whales, which range in age from 7 to 12, were born in captivity and cannot be released into the ocean. They will be leaving an overcrowded habitat with about 50 other whales and will be at the center of important research designed to benefit belugas in the wild. We have state-of-the-art veterinary care and state-of-the-art facilities, Mr. Cohn said. He is one of the researchers, Stephen Cohn. He is the Connecticut Aquarium's president and CEO, and he thinks this is a good idea. This is the largest beluga habitat in North America. They will be much better off here. Connecticut-based Friends of Animals and other activists sought to block the transport in a lawsuit last fall against the U.S. Commerce Secretary and National Marine Fisheries Services, which had approved the research permit. A federal judge in March declined to issue the injunction. Stephen Hernig, the senior attorney for Friends of Wildlife and Animals Law Protection Program, called it a heartbreaking day for the whales. The group claims the U.S. permit violates the Marine Mammal Protection Act and the National Environmental Policy Act because government officials did not adequately address potential harm to the belugas before being moved to ballistic. All right, let's move on. In an excerpt from his upcoming book, Amazon Unbound, journalist Brad Stone has announced that the famous voice of Alexa is that of Nina Roll, a voice actress and singer based in Colorado. Characteristically secretive, Amazon has never revealed the name of the voice artist behind Alexa. I learned about her identity after canvassing the professional voiceover community, Boulder, Colorado-based voice actress and singer Nina Roll, the author wrote. Her professional website contains links to old radio ads for products such as Mott's Apple Juice and the Volkswagen Passat. And the warm timbre of Alexa's voice is unmistakable, he said. Roll said she wasn't allowed to talk to me when I reached her on the phone in February 2021. When I asked Amazon to speak with her, they declined. When asked to confirm her involvement, a representative for Roll said that, they had no idea. No, the virtual assistant, first launched in 2014 on the Amazon Echo connected speaker and was presented as a competitor for Apple's Siri. In 2013, the voice behind Siri was revealed to be voice artist Susan Bennett. Now, isn't that cool? Another mystery solved. This one's kind of weird. A grim artifact that has been on display for decades in a Georgia university has been authenticated as a human head taken from a slain enemy by an Amazonian warrior almost a century ago, and it is now on its way back to where it came from. Researchers at Mercer University in Macon said their test showed that the shrunken head, called a santas in Amazonian languages, is genuinely shrunken, and a shrunken head made in a laborious ceremony of removing its skull and flesh, stitching shut the eyes and mouth, boiling it, then fitting it with hot sand and stones. In 2019, Mercer University repatriated the verified Tsansa to Ecuadorian consulate in Atlanta. It's not clear whether it has yet been returned to Ecuador, but the researchers said they hope it will ultimately be a part of a collection, perhaps a museum, where it will be treated properly. We wanted it to be viewed by people who could appreciate it in an appropriate context, said Mercer University chemist Adam Kiefer. This is not an oddity. This is someone's body. This is somebody's culture, and it's not ours, he said. So from our perspective, repatriation was essential, and we were very lucky that our university supported this endeavor. Shrunken heads were popular curios and keepsakes in some parts of the Western world in the 19th century, and many fakes were made to meet the demand, some of which were illicitly created from bodies taken from cemeteries and morgues. That led to justifiable concerns that the Sansa at Mercer University may have also been fake. Now, Kiefer and his colleagues at Mercer, biologist Craig Byron and biomedical engineer Joanna Thomas, were tasked with verifying that the shrunken head was genuine. And after academics decided it could be cultural importance and Ecuador's government asked whether it could be authenticated, the researchers studied using various techniques, including computerized tomography or CT scans, which allowed them to reconstruct a three-dimensional model of the Sansa, both with and without its long hair. Kind of gross that they were shrinking heads back then, don't you think? Although our listener Fap could probably use some of that. He got a big head. He really does. 3 decades after researchers recovered mastodon remains from a Nova Scotia gypsum quarry, the find is generating new insights into the species' habitat. In the days before one of the elephant-like animals fell into that sinkhole and died around 75,000 years ago. Thanks to a small rock-like specimen of mastodon poo, scientists have reconstructed the animal's diet and environment, concluding the mastodon was a browser, largely staying in a forest setting, taking in shrubs and boughs, but also insects, pollen, and algae. Scott Coker, now a PhD student at the University of Alberta, led the research and is publishing the findings in the Canadian Journal of Earth Science. They gave us a new view in Nova Scotia 75,000 years ago. The plants were very similar to what we see in Nova Scotia today. Well, lots of spruce. There's birch, there's alder, and mixed forest, spruce dominant. Gosh, sounds like my area, where we still have lots of hardwoods like oak, and also there were wetlands, still freshwater wetlands in the area. More importantly, he said, is what the mastodon accidentally consumed while browsing. Analysts revealed that the earliest known Canadian remains of a bark beetle. Also, the poo also contained remnants of freshwater sponge. Its size indicated the mastodon was feeding in late summer or early fall. We're picking up other kinds of microorganisms that all ended up being in the water or happened to be on the trees they were eating, Coker said. And so that's what's actually given us the perfect picture. Because if we were just reconstructing based on what the animal meant to consume, we were getting a real small picture of what's actually going on. Yeah, it's amazing what they could tell in poo. Amazing. Yeah, I can't believe it. And finally, leave it to the Russians, acting like Florida man. Yep, you never go wrong. So apparently, in an online discussion of the Russian Geographical Society, one of the defense ministers of Russia, Sergei Shoigu, a close ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin, suggested that they use the DNA of 3,000-year-old Scythian warriors to potentially bring them back to life. First, some background, the Scythian people, who originally came from the modern-day Iran, were nomads who traveled around Eurasia between the 9th and 2nd centuries BC, building a powerful empire that endured for several centuries before finally being phased out by competitors. Yeah, they were badass battlers as well, and now the Russians want them to become their new army of sorts. However, they will be using scythes, maces, swords, not grenades, but they'll still run into battle. Wonder what they're preparing for. Sea aliens, I tell you. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air, because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Day is as follows. What do you think of Demi Lovato will bring to UFO television? John, a chance for viewers to learn with the host versus a UFO researcher normal people can't relate to. 2, reach an audience normally not accessible. 3, bring a different perspective. 4, for some people, celebrity spokespersons matter. 5, closed communities don't survive. Wu-Tang, basically, she is going to be Stephen Greer's megaphone. Jules, I just pray it's not shame. Quest, ratings, viewers, 0 insight. Craig, millions of people. Eric with a K, we are his 4th favorite show. Going to bring attention to the subject. Jen's rolling her eyes. Liz says she considers herself a true believer. Only 4 episodes. Mark, she will bring more to it than Danny DeVito would. Etolution, kind of funny. She uses the same name, unidentified, for her show. Can go well wrong, but will also be a delight. Who knows? Agree with some and fear it does actually harm to the serious of scientific inquiry. Cherry Pepsi Mike believes it's going to bring viewers. Dave G, nothing, man. It's a nothing burger. Annoying term, isn't that? Nothing burger. Let's continue on. Paul, can't say until we see what the show executives want her to do. I was really surprised on the Megan Fox show about Ancient American. It was pretty good. Nikki, for some reason, I say humor. Lori, laughable at best. Got to fit Hollywood's bring in the buck scenario, but on the other hand, it might get people talking more and make it respectable or make people panicking with this serious threat scenario. Kind of a double-edged sword there. Jeremy, a guide on what haircut to not get. Aussie Rob and his ham hocks say, no idea. Who is that? David, unwanted celeb attention and opinions. Dave Altman, I worked on it. It's not going to be what people think. Danny, probably not the attention we're looking for, especially with disclosure coming soon. It could make ufology look foolish. Jeremy, I don't know, but James Iandoli is doing an interview with a guy from Project Blue Book. Oh, well, what does that have to do with it? Elizabeth, Demi Lovato fans? Scott, a false narrative. Michael Huntington, full disclosure. Darren, not a darn thing. And Joe, we'll leave it with him tonight. Maybe UFO awareness for all the young bubble-headed dummies in preparation for the War of the Worlds. Thank you for everybody participating in the Thought of the Day. We'll do it all again tomorrow, so make sure you tune us on Twitter and Facebook if you want to play along. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the SOR Newswire, and Science Bob and Dave Beaty for coming on Science Bob and Friends talking UFOs. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, LGAB, Twitch, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and Derek and the Snarkettes dancing away on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. That's a good show, people. Very good show. Yeah, we'll take that. We'll definitely take that. That's good stuff. Good stuff right there. By the way, the Michael Leger, I love that gnome. I needed something to hold my headphones, and it totally came through. Oh, hair is getting longer. By the way, if anybody knows how to fix a lawnmower, my Craftsman riding lawnmower needs some work tomorrow, and I'm going to be under the lawnmower tomorrow trying to figure this damn thing out. Yep. If you want to come by and help, I'm okay with that. Magnus Ver Magnuson, how you doing? Super Quest, what's happening, buddy? Thanks, Race Fan. Real good stuff tonight, according to Race Fan. Look at that. Thank you, Cedric. I appreciate the love, man. Ozzy, sister, how are you? Let's see here. Yeah, my house could use some paint. Come on over, dirty filth. Good night, Fast Hammy. Magnus flying over to fix my mower. I think it might cost me less to get it done here, actually. I'm just saying, don't take that the wrong way. But I am saying it may cost me a few bucks less to get it done here. Not that I don't trust your work, but that's a hell of a flight. Antonio, what's going on, man? I hit a tree stump last year. I've gone over that tree stump numerous times, never had any issues with it. And then last year, my final mowing of the year, I hit the gosh darn tree stump, and I must have hit it at a wrong angle, and it just screwed everything up. So that's what I'm trying to fix tomorrow. All right. We will check into that later. Close that out. Go here. And then here. And then here. No, not there. Here. All right. Now we can bring you guys back up. That was a good show tonight. Very good show. Solid radio. Glad I was a part of it. Team Stump. That's right. Right there. Sandra's on Team Stump too. By the way, the new store will have new Team Stump t-shirts. New Team Stump t-shirts coming on out. And they look good. Very, very good. And where's our beginning here? Is it here? No. What the hell? Oh, okay. Well, there. So let's go here. Hold on. We'll delete all this first. Undo. Go here. Copy. Let's try this out. Maybe that'll work. Damn rights I do, Fap. Race fan, make your way over, man. Then we'll go look for Sasquatch. I'll fire up mine. Then we'll go look for Sasquatch. Now that sounds like a plan because we are going out on this weekend. You can join us if you want. Oh, that's not nice, Vin. Dave has a Tesla lawnmower, but he didn't pay the electric bill. Oh, that's just not nice. I pay my bills. No, Chris Mo, I'm a little too old for scything. I have a riding lawnmower. I don't even walk with lawnmowers anymore. I ride. How much does he charge there, Rye Guy? Anything Vinny has always seemed so expensive. Good night, the Michael Leger. The Michael Leger. Well, that's not nice, Vin. Dave rides lawnmowers like Chick ride Harley. That's not very nice. Not nice at all. Why would you say such hurtful things? Hurtful. Vin, my feelings, man. My feelings. Do my feelings even count on this? Wow. Real nice, Fap. That would cost me. My yard is mostly grass, Cedric. I've got like half an acre. Oh, Vin, that's not nice. That's not nice. I can't wait for you to get Science Bob on your show. That's what I'm waiting for. Hey, Vin, I probably forgot this, man, but where's home for you? Dirty filth. The deer here eat the sunflowers. That's the problem. I love sunflowers, but they eat them. The deer eat everything. I actually walked up to a deer eating my sunflower last year. I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" The deer kind of looked at me and said, "Hey, human, do you mind? I'm eating here." Vin, you have so much hate in your life. Why not show some love? You know what, Vin? Let's break into song. Oh, you're in Denver. Well, no wonder you're cranky. You got that airport thing happening there. Hey, Wizard Gren, how you doing? Oh, thank you, Dirty Filth. Yes, Filth, I got your number. I appreciate that, man. I will give you a call tomorrow. If you don't hear from me by the late afternoon, just send me a message because I got a lot of shit I need to do tomorrow. I gotta look at that. Look at that hair. Imagine that. Look at that. That's like total 80s right there. Big satellite on the front of my forehead. Anyways, let's see. Tomorrow night on the show, who do we have tomorrow night? Who do we have? I can tell you here momentarily. Ryushin Malone. Ryushin Malone. Going to more woo candy tomorrow. I'm sure Sovereign Farts will be all horny over this one. This is a guy who slept in the last time. Supposed to have him on a couple weeks ago. Thank you, Wizard Grand. There will be no man bunning here, Shadow Time Writer. No man bunning. That would mean that I also have to listen to horrid music like Fleetwood Mac and Joni Mitchell and Coldplay, which we leave for the triplets of Vin, Fabster, and Rye Guy. And that means I would also have to like soccer. And Lord knows I would never put soccer on anyone that I dislike. No way. Wouldn't do it. Would not do it. Because I care for people. Terrible. I wouldn't wish soccer on anybody. You know who wears a man bun? Vinster. Be right back. All right, this one is finally done. Finally. I didn't go to the bathroom. Let's see here. Do. Now, my ears get itchy after wearing headphones for a long time. I didn't go to the bathroom. Not this time. I'd like to play poker for a living. I would. 70 degrees Fahrenheit. That's perfect temperature. Perfect temperature. Anything over that is like a sin. I would love to play in the World Series of Poker. That is on my wish list, my bucket list. I talked to a couple of people who've played in it. And if you can make it past day one, your chances of making the money jump up by 50%. If you make it past day two, you're pretty much guaranteed in the in the money. Let's try and get George St. Pierre. Let's add him on Twitter. And he was a good fighter. I'll message him right now. Actually, I'll get Corns, the booking guy, to message him. Send Corns a note here. Where are we? Where's Corns? Of course that's going to happen. They're not going to respond. Okay. Not the first time. We'll try and get him. What the hell? That one's done. That one's done. Close that. Close that. We should try and bring Jordan on as well. Hi, Marie. I haven't, because I haven't found one credible enough. Lots of weirdos out there. I'll try and get Jordan Maxwell back on. Jordan, you just ask him, "Hi, Jordan, how are you?" And bang, you got a 3-hour show right there. All right, share that. All right, tomorrow night on the show, we have I already forgot. Damn it. Oh, Ryushin Malone tomorrow night, and it'll be a good one. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, spacedoutradio.com. And then don't forget, Saturdays and Sundays, we have Lynn Wallington and Michael W. Hall from 9 to 11 p.m. each night, as we are live 7 days a week here on our YouTube channel and on Twitch and Periscope. And thank you to Dirty Filth, Wagon Breath, Jules, Dave, Catfish times 2, Greg, Mandingo, Bobby, Science Bob, Mike, Rye, Cedric, and Chad for the amazing super chats tonight. And a big thank you to all of the veterans out there who've listened to our show and have supported us, and we support you. Thank you to all our new subscribers. We're growing by about 28 subscribers a day right now, so that's kind of cool. Doesn't sound like much, but it is. It's kind of cool. And big thank you to all of you for tuning us in. We'll do it all again tomorrow night. Stay tuned, and we'll see you in about 20 and a half hours. Take care.